to report, no action was taken. So I'd like to see if there's any public participation on non-agenda items. Thank you. Please come up to the podium.
Can you hear me okay? Hi, my name is Heather Icarius, and I'm the Director of Second Story Dance Studios here in Fort Bragg. And I have a group of pre-professional advanced dancers that put in at minimum 9 hours per week of dancing, and they do this all year round. Once upon a time, dancers were given PE credit for that pre-professional level of dance. And so I'm hoping that that can be reinstituted so that these dancers who put so much time and energy into it can get some credit, PE credit for the work that they do.
So the mic works. Just to let you know, if you could make an appointment with Mr. Triplett at the high school, the high school would be the place to start. Is this for high school kids?
Yeah, and hopefully middle school. I do have a couple of middle schoolers who are putting in that time as well.
So the difference with middle school, just so you know, is that we don't offer independent study PE at the middle school, so that would be a little different. At the high school, how the requirement reads in Ed Code is once a student completes 9th grade PE and passes the physical fitness test, then alternative PE can be used towards credit, which is why we have athletic PE. So we have had in the past, I remember a student in particular, we used dance as an alternative to PE. So there are opportunities for that, and we can figure that out. We would need to keep really close records, but the students would have to complete 9th grade PE first. So if you have a student in particular who would like to take advantage of that, then start with Mr. Triplett, and I will shoot him an email after this to let him know that this conversation happened in the board meeting, and we can always figure something out.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you for coming. Any other non-agenda items? Okay. All right, can I, 3.5, approval of the agenda. I know we have a couple things that we're going to move to next month, correct?
Yes, so I would like to move the Dana Gray report. Mr. Kale was in Ukiah today for the principals meeting. He was gonna come back for this meeting and then go back to Willits. He lives in Willits. So that didn't make much sense. So I would like to move Mr. Kale's report to the 24th when we have our special board meeting, please.
Okay, now does that mean he's also gonna do is Redwood gonna do the benchmark and then he'll do his bit? Are you gonna do them both tonight, Linda?
We'll move all of his
Okay.
to next time.
Okay. Okay.
I move to approve the agenda with the change of Dana Gray going to January 24th.
I second.
Okay, so now I would like to introduce our Fort Bragg chapter of our FFA club, and we will, if you guys want to kind of push your, you need space, if you could just decide.
One of the 2 middle seats.
Well, I would, okay.
Everybody else is at the table.
Okay. Diana, you want to slide your stuff to the Jerry's side? If we need to move. Oh, kids are coming up here. Oh.
Don't trip.
They're gonna come out.
You got cord right by.
The nice that the tables are. We're going that way. Super.
It's always exciting here at Fort Bragg Unified.
Sorry, Judah. Can we sit?
quorum will come to order. We are now holding a meeting of the Fort Bragg FFA chapter. Madam Vice President, are all officers at their stations?
I shall call the roll of officers, determine if they are at their stations, and report back to you, Madam President. The Sentinel.
Stationed by the door.
Your duties there.
Through this door pass many friends of the FFA. It is my duty to see that the door is open to our friends at all times and that they are welcome. I care for the meeting room and paraphernalia. I strive to keep the room comfortable and assist the President in maintaining order.
The Reporter.
The reporter is stationed by the flag.
Why by the flag?
As the flag covers the United States of America, so I strive to inform the people in order that every man, woman, and child may know that the FFA is a national organization that reaches from the state of Alaska to the Virgin Islands and from the state of Maine to Hawaii.
The Treasurer.
Stationed at the emblem of Washington.
Your duties there.
I keep a record of receipts and disbursements, just as Washington kept his farm accounts carefully and accurately. I encourage thrift among the members and strive to build up our financial standings through savings and investments. George Washington was better able to serve his country because he was financially independent.
The Secretary.
Stationed by the ear of corn.
Your duties there.
I keep an accurate record of all meetings and correspond with other secretaries wherever corn is grown and FFA members meet. Madam Vice President, why do you keep a plow at your station?
The plow is a symbol of labor and tillage of the soil. My duties require me to assist the President in directing the work of our organization. I preside over meetings in the absence of our President, whose place is beneath the rising sun.
Why is the President so stationed?
The rising sun is a token of a new era in agriculture. If we shall follow the leadership of our President, we shall be led out of the darkness of selfishness and into the glorious sunlight of brotherhood and cooperation. Madam President, all officers are at their stations.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The Secretary will call the roll of members.
There are 6 members and numerous guests present, Madam President.
Thank you. FFA members, why are we here?
To practice brotherhood, honor agricultural opportunities and responsibilities, and develop those qualities of leadership which an FFA member should possess.
May we accomplish our purposes. I now declare this meeting of the Fort Bragg FFA chapter duly open to the transaction of business or attention to any matters which may properly be presented. As this is a special meeting held for the purpose of the board meeting, we will dispense with the business portion and proceed at once into the closing ceremonies. Madam Secretary, do you have a record of any further business which should now be done?
I have none, Madam President.
Does any member know of any new or unfinished business which should properly come before this meeting? We are about to adjourn this meeting of the Fort Bragg FFA chapter. As we mingle with others, let us be diligent in labor, just in our dealings, courteous to everyone, and above all, honest and fair in the game of life. Fellow members and guests, please join me in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I now declare this meeting adjourned.
So I just want to thank the members for coming and also for Megan, even though she snuck out already, for staying. I know she has to drive to ComShi tonight. So thank you for doing that. Please share that with the members. Okay. All right. So we'll move on to acknowledgements, and the first, or Becky will lead us through those.
So the acknowledgement. So it is actually School Board Appreciation Month. And it was interesting because I was looking through the CSBA magazine and looking through some of the readings that I had, and it had mentioned this. And so the job of a school board is an elected position. It's an elected position because it is to serve our constituency of our students and of our families. So in honor of School Board Appreciation Month, I just wanted to recognize and thank the board members for being with us and doing the hard work in a very volunteer system. Our board members are not paid. So this is a voluntary position, and we just wanted to acknowledge them and thank them. So thank you. Happy School Board Month. Tell your friends and family. Do you want me to keep going? We have an anonymous donation from item 5.2. And it was for $1,000 to assist needy families with paying off school meals. So that was greatly appreciated. Just so everyone knows, and Pilar can attest to this, we never deny a student food. So even if a student comes from, regardless of what economic background a student comes from, if they're hungry, we always find food for kids. So thank you, Pilar and Food Services, for always taking care of our kiddos. Next, Arts for All. I don't know if folks remember the Arts for All nonprofit. They dissolved, and in the dissolution of that nonprofit, they distributed the monies that they had remaining, and they gave $9,061 to be dispersed to our schools. So everyone got a little piece of the pie. So that was a very wonderful donation, and it was specific that it's going to a visual performing arts, something in visual and performing arts. So the math department is not getting that.
And is that K-12?
Yes, every school got a little bit, and I think even alt ed got some.
Yes.
Everybody got something. So it was wonderful how they dispersed it. So thank you to the Arts for All committee who got together their board and dispersed that. The next one is from Joyful Classrooms. Brittany Kafad is the CEO owner of Joyful Classrooms. She's been doing professional development with our Redwood and Dana Gray staff. She purchased books and some materials for our teachers, and so we wanted to acknowledge and thank her for that.
Okay. All right. Moving on to communication. Did anyone receive any communication that they want to share?
Oh, I received, which I think we all received, from our county Office of Education, Michelle Hutchinson, background on differentiated assistance.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice packet. Okay, anything, Mary? Okay. All right. Okay, we'll move on to public participation on agenda items. So again, you can speak now, or you can wait until the item comes up on the agenda. So would anybody like to speak now? Okay. All right, so reports. The first is the board report, and would anybody like to talk about our self-evaluation, or do you want me to do it? Okay. So we met on Tuesday, and there was a few things that we do a self-evaluation, and it was a 58 question item that we ranked ourselves on. There's definitely some places that we would like to improve. One is that we're hoping to shorten the meetings a little bit. And so we're asking that reports, each item be, a goal would be 10 minutes. We know that isn't always the case, but we're going to try to keep the reports to be written, and so the public and ourselves can be prepped for the meeting, and then we can ask questions and whatnot. But we do understand that some things are time sensitive, and they don't always, that's not always capable, or not capable, but possible. And so we will roll with what we get. And then there was, we really want to work on having goals and priorities at the board level. So that's something that we are going to work on as we move towards the end of this calendar year, Did I miss any other big things?
Being an advocate outside of our school community, getting out to our local and federal and state folks so that they understand where we're coming from. Because a lot of times we're just focused on our families here, and we need to reach out.
Okay. All right, so that's, you guys can give your personal reports, and then I'll come back to what I did in the district.
Okay, I'll start. It's kind of my first month as being a board member, and I just want to thank Becky for almost the entire district tour. We made it to almost all the sites. Got to meet a lot of people and see what was going on, so that was great.
We allocated 2 hours together, and we went through every Redwood classroom, and we tried to get, it's just not enough time. And so Scott and I will be coming back for our second tour, and we're going to be hitting the middle school and all dead.
So that was really good, and I was able to attend with Mary a 2-day training in Sacramento for new board members for CSBA, which is the California School Board Association. Have a whole bunch of notes and things to read up on and learn, but just great to kind of dive right in.
Thank you.
Yeah, basically all I have to report is I went to the social media workshop last night at Cotton Auditorium. It was great. I hope kids got a lot out of it, because I know as an adult, and I'm not a social media junkie, but I can guys were spot on. Absolutely, how it can dominate your life. So, very good.
Thank you to Nancy Bennett and the Parents Clubs for getting that together.
So I have been driving the county, getting kiddos to basketball. So yesterday was my first time in St. Helena. We made it back safe, and I was driving into that storm, and that didn't feel that great, but I'm glad we're back. I also volunteered at the Snack Shack at the Holiday Classic, and along with the girls' A-team tournament, they needed Snack Shack help. Agenda setting on Monday, the day after the break. I went to the site council at the middle school on January 8th and provided our handbook, which they hadn't. I was hoping for new faces, and they really need parents attending. It's a small little group, but I introduced myself as that's my site with our governance handbook, and so they were really happy to be able to look at that to see really what our roles and responsibilities are. And let's see, I think the Mecca was, well, there's two things upcoming. Color Run meeting this Monday on a holiday at 5 o'clock at Starbucks, if anyone wants to get involved. They need a committee. And I also wanted to thank middle school and Dana Gray for the social media assembly. And I know a lot of people got a lot out of it. And I talked to some students, and they definitely probably didn't like the information because it was the same information that their parents have been telling them. But I'm sure it was very point on. Thank you.
I got to do a couple extra things this month. I had to go officially sign the diploma, which was very odd, but it gave me an excuse to go to the high school, so it was great to be back on campus and to say hi to the people in the office. Of course, class was happening, and then I came to the FFA floral sale. That it really amazes me what a beautiful job. They never seem to outdo themselves, and it's just such an organized thing. You pull up, the kids are there. There's no, they've got it down to a science. So great job in the ag department. And I passed along several documents to Mr. Kale for a career fair at Dana Gray. I had hoped to do a little more organizing on that before my job takes over my life this next few months, but I'm hoping that the career fair will take off at Dana Gray, so I'm excited about that. And then I too was at the social media thing, and we can't thank, I really can't thank Nancy enough, I think she's here, for really spearheading that. They said it took her 2 years to do it, and I just think bring him back for another one of those topics, because it was great to see parents there last night, and I haven't talked to my kids yet, but I hope they got something out of it too, so thank you.
And I also, I went with Scott to the new school board member training in Sacramento, which was great. I thought we got a lot out of it. It was time well spent. Before Christmas, I went and met with Linda, and she walked me through the programs at Redwood. That's the staff I'm attached to. And then I went to the staff meeting. And they needed someone to do the katyas on Thursday, so I came back on Thursday and at the recess did katyas, and I'd never done that. I didn't really know about katyas, and it was so fun. So I want to do it again. So if you need me again, call me, because it was super fun and getting to, you know, interact with the little kids. And my granddaughter came up and, oh, Mimi, oh my gosh. So it was pretty cool. That was a star. That was fun. And then I attended the ELAC meeting at Dana Gray on the 8th. And I'd never been to one before, so that was really interesting. I'll be at Redwoods on, I think it's February 7th. So anyway, that was really interesting. And then I attended Coffee with the Principal that Linda does at Redwood. That was, what, January 11th, and that was really interesting. It was all about reading and related to my granddaughter who has issues, so that was perfect. And you're doing another one in February, and that's on kindergarten and TK. For my other granddaughter. So
it's all about you, Mary.
I'm getting double duty, I gotta say. No, it's about my granddaughters, and you know that. So anyway, it was great, and Linda, you did a great job. I got a lot out of it. Thank you. And so did the parents that were there.
And that was a joke for those of you who don't know. Mary and I actually worked together. Sorry, YouTube station viewers, all three of you.
And Mitchell, she's not embarrassing you either.
No.
Okay, anything else that came to mind? Okay, so Judah.
Yes. Get this down here. So school's back in session. The winter break was, I think, very relaxing for everyone, but we're back now. At the high school, this week is mid-year mashup, and so we renamed Hoopla to be a little bit more inclusive to other winter sports. So it's mid-year mashup right now, and we're celebrating basketball, wrestling, and mock trial. And so we've had dress-up days, activities, we had a rally, etc. Today was Harry Potter Day, so people were dressed as wizards and stuff. And then also something that happened before the break, but I didn't have a chance to report it. ASB did a fundraiser for the victims of the Paradise Fire and actually raised over $1,000. So,
nice.
Yeah, so they bought gift cards to like Target and Safeway and a number of different stores, and they actually sent them directly to I believe it was the principal of Paradise High School, and he's going to actually distribute them to families who are in need. So that's something that's really awesome. At the middle school, basketball is in full swing, as Diana was saying. Also, the social media assembly that you guys referenced took place, and I heard that it was successful. And there is a New Year's dance tomorrow night for those students. At Redwood, a little bit of a diary.
Judah, I'm sorry to interrupt. The dance is at the middle school, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, was that unclear? Middle school dance.
Yes.
Okay.
Just clarify, please.
Sorry. At Redwood, there's a bit of a change. Cereal has been added to the breakfast in the classroom program, so the report is that students are happy with that addition. Also, the 100th day of school is coming up on January 31st, so festivities are being prepared for that. And currently, the second grade is doing swimming lessons, and the first grade is receiving classroom visits from the Noyo Center marine mammal people. So those are exciting things. And then finally, at Dana Gray, there is also a social media awareness assembly taking place this week, and the 5th grade is having similar Noyo Center presentations. And then in February, coming up for Dana Gray, there is the Readathon and the Earth Dome, which I'm told is a 20-something foot tall blow-up balloon that has photos of the globe on it. So students will be able to check that out. And that's all for student activities in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Judah.
I'd be curious to know if the teachers are happy about the cereal. I guess we'll hear about that on a different day.
Is it dry cereal?
Okay. Sorry, I'm still getting in the groove that I'm supposed to be moving the meeting along. So now to superintendent's report.
So the first thing is the block grant application. There's a block grant that we are eligible for. It is for low-performing students who do not qualify for supplemental and concentration funds. So a student who is not socioeconomically disadvantaged, who is not EL, who is not foster homeless youth, but that student is scoring below grade level expectations, we have the potential to apply for this grant. For us, I believe it's $120,000. Sound right? Ish. It's around $120,000. We've talked in great detail about what to do with this money, and we're going to apply for this grant to ascertain another counselor for the district so that both of our elementary schools will have a designated counselor instead of one that goes back and forth. And why we are doing this is because if we're targeting these certain kiddos who need help, we have to figure out a way to provide support for the teacher. Part of a counselor's duty is not only social emotional learning, but it's also academic, which is part of the PPS. It's a pupil personnel services credential. So our hope is that by applying for this grant and using it towards another counselor, that we will do many things. We'll have another set of eyes on the students who are targeted for this, providing supports for the teacher, and also doing things like SEL at both sites. I think both sites could easily agree that the presence of a counselor has made a huge impact on what we do in the classroom and how we work. Outside of the classroom, what's been difficult is watching a counselor go back and forth between the schools. If you're Monday, Wednesday, Friday at Dana Gray, you hope a Dana Gray student doesn't blow out on Tuesday or Thursday, which is not really, it's difficult. And the same thing with Redwood. So we're hoping we get this grant. Part of the requirements for us to even apply for the grant is for me to be able to say that I presented this to you and what the plan was. On the background sheet, it talks specifically about what our plan is, how we are going to apply for the grant, and how we're going to monitor it. Right now, we're talking about the counselor meeting with the targeted students, establishing goals, using the benchmarks for ELA and math as part of progress monitoring, and then CAST scores. Yes?
So it's $120,000 over 3 years, so I'm assuming you get three $40,000 chunks, which won't pay for a counselor, so how do we make that work?
Well, right now, we have external contracts that I am evaluating with Wendy. If we take those external contracts and move them into FBUSD, those external contracts are about $45,000. So that $45,000 plus this $40,000 will easily pay for a counselor.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Moving on, we have Ms. Reese here with our TK team and teachers. She's going to give you a report about our TK program. I asked Ms. Reese to do this. This is something that we talked about. So last year, the board approved moving TK to a half day, and then what we were going to do with that, and really working with the staff to figure that out. So Ms. Reese is going to share with us what's been done.
So I have a paper copy of what's been presented, so you don't have to keep looking back over your shoulder.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Linda Reese. I'm the principal at Redwood Elementary School. And last year we came to the board and asked, pardon me, for their TK students to go home at a modified day. It was slightly more than a half day. And the purpose was that our TK teachers can then go into the kindergarten classrooms and provide intervention that was needed, targeted intervention that was needed for our kindergarten students to address needs. And we've done that this year. So let's go ahead and give you the report. And Anna, hopefully this will work for me. Or maybe the other way.
Is it on? Am I in the way? The little.
Oh, the little toggle thing.
Yeah, we'll just pass it around.
Oh, okay, bro.
The long way.
Thank you. Okay, so essentially we needed to go ahead and identify a need, address that need, review our data, and make sure it's measuring or addressing a goal, and the battery's gonna be low.
Oh, gosh.
We'll be fine. It's not a technical difficulty that we appreciate. So essentially our TK and kindergarten teachers got together and first identified what was the criteria for our students coming in. And if you've ever had brand new kindergarten students, you know that not many of them come in with preschool experience or some preschool experience or a lot of preschool experience. So we have a lot of variety of students who come into our doors. And so the qualifying criteria that was first chosen just to identify students initially, probably was letter recognition and could they write their name? And you're thinking, well, that's really basic. It is, but we do have a lot of students who need help with that one. So initially we had 3 groups working as small groups with one dedicated teacher. Our TK teacher, Mrs. Daniels, would have her students leave. She'd come in then and pull students individually into a small group, work with them. This happened for about 15, 20 minutes a day. They grew, I believe initially they grew because some of them were rolling on the rug. They were, look at that pretty poster. So there was a little distraction, but she quickly got them under control. Went on ahead and worked with our group 4 days a week. Pardon me, for 20 minutes a day. There were 14 students who were initially pulled for this. And this was 11% of our kinder population. And I wanted to show you that we are addressing what we asked or what we promised you from last year. I remember from last year, we had suggested 2 TK teachers. We were very hopeful that with our population of students, we could have 2 TK teachers doing this and coming in. But our student numbers needed a TK kinder combination class. So our TK kinder combination teacher, Mrs. Smith, cannot just leave her kindergarten students and then come back. So we have 1 teacher doing this. And so Mrs. Daniels has been addressing about half of that anticipated population, which is currently 11% of our population. And you're thinking that's not that much. Actually, I pulled the numbers, and this is higher than what our reading intervention teachers doing by at least 1%. So number-wise, it's working out. We also have our TK teachers and our kindergarten teachers reevaluating this data 1 to 2 times per cycle, which is 6 weeks. And on the next few slides, I'll show you the progress graphs. They are pulling that graphing or the data into graphs, and they're talking about it. It's really eye-opening to see which student needs more help and which students could exit because they've accomplished that. And it's a true pleasure to sit in these meetings and hear the teachers talking about student progress and how they're going to meet that. The measurable goal is definitely connected to reading. It is based upon students' needs, so it's going to be fluid. Some students may not need it for a very much long or a long period of time, and some students may need it later on. So our current qualifying criteria is the use of a STAL assessment. It's a literacy assessment, pre-reading skills and reading skills. Currently there are, again, we continue with 3 small groups, 14 students, again, 11% of our current population. They're receiving 25 minutes per day. We're incrementally increasing that because they can, for stamina and for time frame. Also, again, 4 days a week. We've got a 6-week duration right now. The current lessons are focusing on phonemic awareness, blending, segmenting sounds, and the letter sound correspondence. These are reading skills that they're addressing in very small, dedicated, targeted groups. Okay? Yes, the clicker works. So to demonstrate the data analysis, we've got 3 different examples here from our first groups. And although the bottom time frame is a little bit longer, it was the preset of that curriculum or the assessment graph period. The the period started from September 4th. So right around September 4th, the intervention began, and as you can see, the students were assessed, checked in, how are they doing? And with this group, they increased by at least 8 number, not percent, but by 8. The next group increased by 6. The next and the third final group increased by 6. And these are letter recognition again. Remember, they couldn't read their name, they couldn't recognize their name, they couldn't write their name, they couldn't recognize letters. So they're increasing in that. And this is at the beginning part of the school year, where many of these letters will be addressed later on for reading success or reading progress. So they need these letters. But in every single group, incremental increases are demonstrated. So overall, our increased pre-academic skills are being developed. They're not rolling on the ground anymore. They're actually being able to sit in a chair and focus and work in a small group and listen to the teacher and follow the teacher's directions. So again, those pre-academic skills are being developed. We are absolutely increasing our reading academic skills in this small intervention group. The students are also increasing their awareness of learning, and that's extended into the regular classroom. Many of the teachers were speaking once a student was participating with Mrs. Daniels. They noticed a difference in the students' overall learning behavior in the classroom as well. Students are more excited, interested, and engaged in learning. Isn't that what we want? There's also a decrease in need for remediation instruction. Hopefully, possible, preventing future need for remediation. So right now, we're working very hard. The team is here as well if you'd like to ask any specific questions. But I have to absolutely give kudos to Mrs. Daniels and the kindergarten team. Not only is she demonstrating high effort, dedication, and just persistency in working with those kiddos, but the kindergarten group they're constant in communication about kids and kids' progress and how can we better. Do you have this? Let me share this with you. What about the kids' data? They are truly student-focused. Any
Good job,
questions on
team.
that piece? Yeah, any questions on that piece?
No, I just want to thank you because it actually warms my heart because you're giving them huge confidence right off the get-go that they're able to maybe not be so squirmy or have other needs because they feel more confident being a student. Because as my daughter says, I can't go to swim lessons because I don't know how to swim. So same concept. I don't want to go to school because I can't read. And so it's really intimidating when you're kind of an introvert.
And then just one last remark, because we have one TK teacher going into and pulling kindergarten students, that doesn't mean that the other TK-K combination teacher, the TK students in that combination class are leaving, and then those students are getting very small group instruction. It's, again, Mrs. Smith is also working very hard on that too, so I want to make sure I recognize her by name as well.
Okay, any questions from the board for?
Okay, let's go, moving on then to the TOSA. So TOSA is an educational acronym for Teacher on Special Assignment. And if you've ever been in education, worked in education, we have a lot of acronyms. So TOSA. So we have an update. Last year, our staff voted to not have an art music special teacher. And that was a big decision for us. Instead, we wanted to focus on our literacy focus that was chosen by the staff and have a staff member help us move forward with building teacher capacity, instructional strategies, and let's get going on because I've got a wonderful update for you. So our Redwood TOSA, or Teacher on Special Assignment, these are some of the typical tasks or assignments and main responsibilities. Not only is this individual providing individualized in-classroom coaching, it's personalized. So one teacher who may have a higher level development of teaching strategies may need to be focusing or wanting to focus on a different topic. Well, this coach can help with that and then personalize what each teacher wants to focus on. And I need to back up. We have Mrs. Erickson in the class, in our space right now, and this is our Redwood TOSA. So Mrs. Erickson's actually doing a phenomenal job. The first semester or trimesters was the teacher's choice, guided reading, and then student engagement. These are all excellent topics for any teacher at any grade level. So wait a minute, wasn't it literacy focus? Yes. She's meeting one-to-one weekly meetings with teachers who are receiving the coaching in their certain cycles and certain periods. She cannot be in all 18 general education classrooms at once. I don't blame her. She's definitely doing so she's got to break it into different chunks. And also for the teachers to pause, reflect, and implement what they just learned. So she's modeling best teaching practices in all of our classrooms. And I need to make a mention, even though her focus is on our general education classroom, she has absolutely helped also in our special education classroom, I remember, the first part of the year as well. She's meeting regularly with grade levels. She's providing support and information. She's leading trainings on guided reading. She's done that twice at Redwood and once over at Dana Gray, again on reading strategies and writing records. She's providing all of the Redwood teachers with a resource binder. She's already provided that. There's tips, strategies, quick references. It's a great go-to guide. She's holding weekly meetings with new teachers, and I went to one or two of them, and it was great. She was like, okay, well, what kind of, and so she had a table of maybe extra goodies that a new teacher was like, oh my gosh, I can actually use an extra set of expo markers. Thank you. So she's been a great resource for that, but also a safe place for them to go, okay, I'm new, and we've got parent conferences. What do I do? So it was a safe haven for those teachers. And I think returning teachers have also attended a couple times too. The academic intervention meetings, she's been attending those, helping us with that. She's also in the works right now arranging a literacy night for our families, so you'll be invited to that. She's been conferring with myself and Mr. Kale as well for the supporting staff members, but mainly for us at Redwood. I know that she was meeting with Mr. Kale once for the presentation at Dana Gray. She's also assisting staff with the school book room that we have. We have a phenomenal book room with leveled readers that she's assisting getting teachers those materials. And finally, she's researching strategies and resources to share. She's like the Wikipedia of literacy and teaching strategies. So I don't have to worry about, is this information the right information or not? How can I implement this? Is this the right thing? I've got to go to. So she has been instrumental in providing our staff with a phenomenal support mechanism. She's implementing district initiatives, building teacher capacity, building and increasing those teaching strategies. She's modeling best teaching practices. That's hard to find. She's promoting forward progress and innovation in our classrooms. I remember a teacher was mentioning to me that she was having a difficult time with the technology component, and that after she spoke with Lundy, Ms. Erickson, she was thrilled and was able to do it afterwards. That's the key. That's the key for all of us learning. And she's a tremendous instructional partner on campus. So I can't just say a coach. So I really do need to give Mrs. Erickson again kudos for her efforts, her time, and her persistence in working with our staff. So that is our TOSA, Teacher on Special Assignment, update as well. Any questions or comments? Because I'd like to give her a round of applause, because this has been truly a work for Redwood.
Thank you, Lindy. Thank you, Ms. Reese.
Okay.
So thank you both for taking a probably no job description position, and sounds like doing a great job. So thank you for that.
Yeah, all the hard work will pay off. It already sounds like it is.
Okay. If there are no more questions or comments, we'll move to Wendy.
Okay, so last week, is this working? No.
Mitchell, is she on?
Wendy's mic.
Okay.
Can you hear
Is
her?
it-
Because I can't hear her.
I can speak up.
Or grab
I mean, the
grab
room can
Anna's.
hear me. I don't know if the broadcast can, but I can certainly make myself heard in the room.
Who's Anna's?
Okay, that's all right. So last week, the new governor introduced his budget proposal for next year, and it raised as many questions as it answered for us as far as moving forward. There were some bright spots for education. The cost of living adjustment to the funding formula that we have was increased from about 2.5% to about 3.5%. So that'll mean a little extra ongoing revenue for us.
There is no one-time money that's going to be available. Okay, now I hear it's working. Okay, it's moving away. So we're not going to have that little extra pocket of money to do with what we will, or to help pad what we need. Some of the other things that are being proposed are a pay down of some of the STRS debt that the state has. And if that does end up becoming part of the budget, the projection is that it will reduce our STRS contribution. The projected increase will be less. So that will be helpful to us. Anything like that will be helpful. Also, because of market factors, the PERS contribution is expected to be 0.1% lower than we were projecting the increase. So they're all still increasing, just not quite as drastically. A lot of the money that's going out is proposed is not necessarily going directly to school districts. They're going to be adding additional funding to county offices of ed to help with the differentiated assistance and other supports that areas need. They are talking about possibly some special education money, some one-time, some ongoing. The details of it are non-existent, other than it would possibly be going directly to districts rather than going through SELPAs. So that would allow us to have better control over what's done with it. What they're targeting is students with disabilities who aren't performing as expected. So again, we have no idea what it looks like. We have no idea what it means dollar-wise. We have no idea if it's going to actually happen. We just, it's the governor's wish list, and we'll see in May how close they get. I mean, he does have strong support in the legislature, so chances are that a lot of what he's wanting to do will happen. Other things that are falling outside, I think, of schools, support for ages birth to 3, those kinds of things, home visits for parents, making sure that people have prenatal care and that sort of thing, and other things that are not going to directly affect us. So the biggest impact for us is the reduction in the STRS rate and the increase in the COLA for the ongoing revenue. So I'll have more detail about that next week when we do the budget workshop.
Okay. Any questions for Wendy?
So I just want to clarify, so you said that the special education funds may go directly to the district instead of the SELPA?
Not all of them.
Okay, part of it.
There's an extra amount that the governor has proposed in January that may be available for districts, but I think it's going to be very targeted. So I don't know if nobody knows how they intend to distribute it.
Okay, like you have to request it or just fall into, yeah.
We have no idea if they're going to look at our data in the dashboard and say, okay, you have this many special ed kids who aren't performing up to standards, so we're going to give you some money. We don't know what it's going to look like. We just don't. But they did specifically say that this would be going around the SELPAs to the districts. But it's not a huge amount, and we really know little to nothing about how.
Do you think it will be enough to offset the SELPA reduction from last year?
I would say no.
So boil it all down, put it in, pull it back out. It's a pretty minute increase.
I would not expect it to make a significant difference in our funding.
So my point being is that the articles I've written really make it sound like this governor is funding education the most money we've ever gotten, and in reality it's just a pittance.
Well, it is the most money we've ever gotten dollar-wise, but buying power isn't helping. And you know what we'll show you next week when we do the budget workshop is COLA is based on a nationwide average, so we're lumped in with Kansas. You know, so no, seriously. I mean, it you know, cost of living is very different in those places, so it's a nationwide average. The problem is the CPI in California, and you know, if you look at those two things over 6 years, the CPI, the COLA doesn't keep up with CPI here.
Right.
So, you know, we're looking at still not really being funded to meet our expenses moving forward. So it's going to continue to be a challenge, and there are articles all over the internet about school districts saying, yeah, but we still have to, you know, cut millions of dollars from our budgets. These are big districts, to get by. And so it's going to continue to be a challenge, and there are going to be more pressures because the state has said that they will backfill property taxes for special aid districts. So, you know, that's probably where any possibility of one-time discretionary money went. So there are going to be continuing pressures on the state funds to do that. And you have a lot of legislators who, a lot of Democrats who won in traditionally red regions of the state that are going to have to play more of a middle of the road to the right side of the road when it comes to agreeing to these spending plans. And so there might be more of a, not a battle, but a, you know, tugging back and forth of some of those things than just because it's a supermajority, it's not necessarily going to happen.
And my frustration with all this is that probably a week after that article came out, Governor Newsom announced $209 billion in new spending programs. So apparently there's tons of money out there for education. He just is not choosing to spend it on education. So any opportunity you get to tell a legislator or anybody or FBDTA or anything, you know, you have a very powerful lobby that, you know, they just got to kick down some more money. It just, I mean, they've got, I mean, my pet peeve is the $100 billion bullet train to Bakersfield. There's plenty of money, but I don't know what we do to convince these folks that they just need to reapportion it differently. So.
And CSBA is doing a full attack on a fair funding formula. This has been something that I've been screaming since I became an administrator. The difference between a basic aid district and the difference between a basic aid district and us. We are based on average daily attendance. We have 1,800 kids in our district. We're funded on 1,650. So, basic aid district, they get their money based on their property taxes, which is great. And I mean, no disrespect to any basic aid district. Go with God. Get your money because it's great. My issue is that we don't have that. We're not funded at the same level. We still have to prepare for 1,800 students. We still have to have books and meals for all those kids. And we do it on less money. So the impoverished districts continue to be impoverished, and the districts who are basic aid, who have the wineries and everything in their backyard to rely on, continue to stay affluent. And there's a stark difference. So we're hoping to use a block grant to get another counselor. And there's just, there's no even Stevens out there in the state of California, so it bothers me. So
one of the things we learned in Sacramento is the importance of advocacy that the board can play. So if there are any opportunities that you see that we can help, reach out to legislators or Sacramento or anything.
There's a petition that we just got from CSBA. I don't know if you all saw that. So I'm going to send that out for folks to add their name to it if you'd like. No pressure. It's about advocating for a fair funding formula for the state of California for schools. So
I mean, every student should have the same amount, same investment. I mean, it just seems so wrong.
It's all about zip code.
Especially when, you know, I just looked up on the Fort Bragg website, and the median wage in Fort Bragg for our family is $36,000.
We're a family of 4.
That's alarming.
So the way I look at it is we are in the top 10% of high tax states in the nation. We should be in the top 10% of funded education.
Sad.
And we're near the bottom in per pupil.
Are we off the 48th? Did this change us to
We're
47?
54, I think. 54?
I don't know. It's somewhere in the high 40s.
I thought we were 47,
Out of 50.
so I think what I just read.
choir, preaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
It's bad.
No, it's all good. Hopefully our 3 viewers out there will.
Okay, and I've been really bad at watching the time, so here we are. We're supposed to be doing better. Not that I think we went over 10 minutes, but I'll just admit that I've been really bad at watching the clock.
Okay, my job too. This is why I'm doing this.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, So now we're going to do the Redwood benchmarks, please.
So we're giving 5 minutes.
Good evening again. I'm back. Here we go. Let's make it 10 minutes if you can just give me a reminder, 8 minutes. Woo. And it's data, everyone's favorite. So these are our annual timely benchmarks. We have a benchmark advance curriculum, so sometimes we get confused, right? But it's our timely trimester information. So these are the beginning of the year scores. How are our kids doing at the very beginning of the year? So our current subject matter is English Language Arts, and for my site, I needed to see the numbers. So we have a pie graph, pie graph of the results, but I also needed to see the numbers a little bit more clearly. Also, the color coded on the bottom indicates, so we really like blue and green. Yeah. Blue and green is good. Red and yellow, okay, we've got some work to do, but blue and green are our favorite colors. Okay, so blue and green, yeah. For kindergartners, these are again students who are just coming in, mainly into the school system, so we don't have any prior information on them, but how are they doing right now? So far, not so bad. Let's compare different students though. These are kindergarten students from this year, 2018, and last year's kindergarten students, 2017. There was a technical difficulty, that's why the pie graphs are different, but the percentages are the same, are indicating the same. So it was the same test, just different kids 1 year apart. Okay, so blue and green aren't looking so bad still. I remember that the board also wanted information about our subgroups. So for the audience members, our subgroups are students who are language learners, different racial profiles perhaps, or identified as a different race, socioeconomically disadvantaged students. But because we have our small numbers of students, I have redacted the number of students because it might be quite easy to identify some of our students in a grade level specifically. So that's why there's black marks. If you've got any questions, you can ask me, but for confidentiality purposes, that's why it was redacted. But our special education group, last year this was a concern for our test scores as well. And I know that the board, you were asking about how are our subgroups doing. So on our dashboard, our Redwood dashboard scores are also tied in with Dana Gray's dashboard scores, and our special education population needs a little bit more looking to as well. So this is indicated at this current time frame with our kindergarten students right now. We've got a couple, or 51% averaged correct on the test. Well, I can't tell you how many students we have in that category, but right now they're needing a little bit more assistance, okay? How did our first graders do? A little bit more yellow. Not so many exceeded. Well, how did our first graders do last year on the test? So again, these are different students, but the same test. We had a good amount of size of the yellow as well. It was 61% though last year, and 48% this year. Our numbers for standards meeting this year increased. This was one thing I noticed on this score, on this test. We also have our subgroups as well. Special education, again, is something that we need to take a look at. English language learner population, though, that was one of our areas on the dashboard was that we were making progress. We were in the blue for our dashboard for Redwood. Now, this is a slide that you'll see more so at Dana Gray. With kindergarten students, we just don't have the history, but for our first grade current population, we do. So at the very far right, you see where they are right now, where this same group of students were at the beginning of kindergarten and at the end of kindergarten. Okay, beginning of the year this year, it's a little bit more rigorous. Or was it the summer dip? Or, so again, data can show us many things and also bring up a lot of questions as well. But it's interesting to compare the same group of kids and then again compare different groups of kids year by year. How are our teaching practices doing? How are our teaching strategies? Oh, this worked. I remember this didn't work so much in this lesson. I'm going to change it up for this year.
Well, we also talked about it last year. Kinder teachers, if you remember, we talked about the kinder benchmarks being different in rigor than the first grade by drastic accounts. Because I remember we were sitting here at the board going, wow, the kindergartners are killing it. Because they were all doing super well in the first grade. We saw lots of, red and yellow. And one of the things that we noticed right away in going back and looking at that was the difference in rigor in the standards and what was asked of that first grade benchmark. So it doesn't surprise me. It actually reinforces what we saw last year. Not that everyone isn't still killing it and doing a great job, but there's a big difference.
Again, data can bring up more questions than what it can show as well. So, our second grade students. Now remember that what Mrs. Walker just mentioned too. That second grade test, the rigor of that second grade test increases phenomenally. And I believe it was also the end of second grade skills that are being assessed. And you're going to be asking, why are we testing second graders at the beginning of the school year, at the end of school year skills? They haven't been taught that. Well, maybe some students are gifted. Maybe some students can meet those. Maybe we need to differentiate and exceed or infer and keep going, or maybe not. As an indicator, this is just where my students are. So I understand the red. We did not have any students exceed right now. Okay. How were they last year? Okay. Same thing. Not so many students exceeded. A large chunk of red and yellow. But this year, more green. So I've got a bigger group of students who can meet standards right now at this time, well, beginning of the year, at this mark, than last year. How are our subgroups doing? Special ed isn't the leader on that one. It is our socioeconomically disadvantaged students. So what can we do to address that? Some of the other subgroups, though, are, as Mrs. Walker said, they're killing it. They're doing great. Our ELL students, who are listed as proficient in English, are doing great. They're in the green. Same students, where were they in first grade? So at the beginning of first grade, where they were at the end of first grade, and it was difficult for me to see the percentages next to the colors. So I took a look at the percentages across the standard met. Right now, that same group at the beginning of last year, they were 15%, and now they're 16%. Okay, so maybe it's just that beginning of the year jitters. Maybe it was just this group. Maybe they're warming up later on. But at least this gives me some information about where my kids are. Does this mean that we have work to do? Yes. Does it mean that our students can succeed? Yes. It just helps us identify what the need is and how to address it. And I believe that's the last slide. No, math. Oh my gosh, how can I forget math? Math was a better subject actually overall. So our kindergarten students, again, are scoring this well at this point in time of the school year. Again, we like to see blue and green. Different group of kids. Just how did we score initially at the beginning of last year to this year? More green this year. Special education, we'll need to work on that one. Also, remember kindergarten, they may not have had a lot of English instruction. So compared to the difference between second grade students whose the English language learners are being listed as proficient to where they were in kindergarten, they're in the red here in kindergarten. They were in the red in kindergarten for ELA. And so after a couple of years, they're learning the language of English, which is the instructional language. They're progressing. How are our first graders doing? Not too bad. Do we still have work? Yes. but we're doing okay. This gives me, again, a help of where my students are and how I can address their needs as a teacher.
And that's 8 minutes, just to let you know.
Oh, I'm sorry?
That's 8 minutes. You
Oh,
told
okay,
me
thanks.
what you told me.
All right, yes, love you guys. Here we go for math. Different students, though. So again, compare from last year's students to this year's students. More yellow at the beginning of the year. We've got more green this year. So I'm going to be looking at this grade level specifically and their progress in math. Why, why more green? More blue? Yay! But can we keep that up? It'd be great. Our English proficient students, the English language learners, after first grade, our kindergarten teachers are absolutely helping them. They're learning English, they're learning those math skills. We've got some work to do with our special education population. We'll get there. Same students, remember that we didn't have any background information on the kindergarten students who are currently in our classrooms, but we do on our first graders. So there's a comparison of how our current first graders are doing this year and how they were last year. Second grade, English language arts had no blue for second grade, but they've got blue in math. Okay. Maybe our math strategies are right on par. Maybe they're doing great. Maybe we need to look at those as well, but it looks like our math strengths are there. How is this group compared to last group? A little bit more yellow this year. How is our subgroups doing? How are they doing? Our socioeconomically disadvantaged students need some help in math too. English language learners who are proficient, not doing bad. They went from red to green in second grade, from red in kindergarten to the green in second grade. Same group of students then, okay? Here they are right now at the beginning of second grade on the right, where they started a year ago, and then their progress. So I'm interested in knowing how come there's more red at the end of first grade, and then now there's less red. And I think I heard my 10-minute timer. But I want to make sure you have any questions.
Any questions?
If not, you know where to catch me. Also, I'll be putting this on our website so that the public can also see these scores as well. We'll be coming back and reporting our second and third benchmark assessments throughout the year to you as well. We'll compare, we'll go from there, and I'd be interested. It's going to be great to see the progress. It really is.
It's nice that we now have this screen, where you can track the kids instead of just having the snapshots.
Or the bars. Yeah, it was kind of hard to read the bars. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. Thank you, Redwood. So we've moved Mr. Kales till next time, and
So we're on to nutrition
Yes.
services report with Pilar.
Hello, I'm Pilar Gray, Director of Nutrition Services for the Fort Bragg Unified School District. So I'm here today to report back some findings. I went out and visited some 3 other Northern California school districts who do not have a general fund contribution to their nutrition department to see what they're doing differently than we're doing, to maybe see if there was some ideas of stuff that we could take and bring here to help improve our financial situation in the department. So I went out and visited Cloverdale, Lakeport, and Kelseyville. No one in Mendocino County, so we're looking at Sonoma and Lake County. It was really fun to go see these other districts. It's always nice to see what they're up to. It was a little challenging, though, because I felt very much like I was trying to compare apples to oranges. So I gathered as much data as I could and did a lot of observations, spoke to their directors, and Cloverdale was able to chat with their CBO, too, which was very enlightening. And then just spent a lot of time trying to flesh it out to get down to the details of what you really need to look at. because there's so many other things that come into play. And so, in a nutshell, what I came out of it was that between us and these other districts, we're pretty much spending about the same amount of money per meal. Our staffs are preparing about the same amount of meal per labor hour. So, okay, well, that's all right, not our issue, which is good. That's good to know. What I did see was a lot of differences in infrastructure. Two of these districts are running on central kitchens. And so, and I've known for a long time that, that does bring a lot of efficiencies to the system. I mean, at Fort Bragg Unified, we're paying overhead on 4 main sites and then a small kitchen over here for a supper program. So the more sites you're operating, obviously the more overhead you have, the more costs that come into play. When you consolidate everybody into one space, it becomes far more efficient. You get all your staff in there cooking together, only paying for one kitchen, and then they disperse out to the sites and serve the kids on site. And they've got some really nice models out there. I mean, they're doing a really good job at Lakeport and Kelseyville. They are, preparing fresh-made, scratch food, very similar to ours. Lakeport's food was very similar to ours, and their model was very similar in how they're actually serving the kids and preparing the food. However, again, it's all in a central kitchen, and they have 3 schools right in a row. So it's very extremely efficient. I mean, their transportation is minimal. So it's like, well, okay. And so I just kind of had to look at what's similar and what's different between us and them and what can we take out of it. I've given you a lot of details. I know we want to keep these reports very short, so I'm not going to go over that. You've got it in your report. One thing I did know that every one of these schools has a closed high school campus, which we don't. I can't really compete with kids going off campus. That's a really difficult one. But I also noted that we don't have dining area on our campus for kids. So that's not an easy fix. There's not a lot of seating area for Fort Bragg High School to be indoors and protected and dine. These other districts, Lakeport has a brand new central kitchen that they built. Just to give you a reference, they passed a bond to do it. They expected $1.7 million. It cost them $4.1. Yeah. So, I mean, as much as it'd be wonderful to have that, I don't see that as a foreseeable quick fix for Fort Bragg, right? And they also, built in really nice dining areas, outdoor dining areas with covered areas with heaters and music being typed in and everything to make it very kid-friendly and comfortable. It'd be wonderful if at some point we could get a nice dining area for kids here. I went the other day and actually counted 45 seats in our student union. 45. We could probably double that, get some more kids in there, but we have over, 500 kids on this campus. So it doesn't seem reasonable to close a campus if there's no place for kids to sit and be covered out of the rain and eat. So I don't see that as a quick fix either. What I did see them doing also, every single one of these districts was selling a lot of snacks, a lot of a la carte sales, which we don't do here. Way back when in history, we decided as a district that our priority was to prioritize healthy food and not to sell kids snacky type foods to generate funds. They're making bank money on it, people. They're making a lot of money selling these snacks. And so that is something we could consider. This is, again, going to be a decision of priorities of the community, of our parents, our teachers, or of course our board, and administration, if that's something we want to do. That's a quick, easy thing that we could implement and try. They're doing things, lots of chips, they're doing frozen yogurt, they're doing slushies that are made out of fruit juice, but they are artificially colored, which is something that we agreed to that we weren't going to serve here. But it's something you might want to consider. Again, that's an easy thing to implement that wouldn't be too disruptive. We would have to revise our wellness policy to allow me to do all of that, so that's something to consider. Kelseyville was the school district that is doing the best financially. They're keeping their costs the lowest and doing the most sales. They have an 89% free and reduced rate, which is outstanding. That really helps tremendously. We're about 68 to 72, and they're on provision 2, which means every kid in the district eats for free. Now, we have implemented a partial provision 2 this year at our elementary schools for breakfast only, so all of our kids are eating breakfast for free. I am looking into the possibility of either provision 2 or community eligibility provision, which are 2 different models where all kids eat for free on school campuses. to see what might make sense for Fort Bragg. There's fine lines on these programs on what can or cannot make money.
We
Yes, Chair?
are turning a profit on the breakfast in the
Yeah,
classroom, correct?
yes, it is. And so that should help as well. Obviously, we don't have the final numbers yet. We still have to eke out all the costs and see how it comes out at the end. It's a little early to really say, because anytime you introduce something new, it's a novelty, and things tend to go, woo, it's great, and then, people get used to it, and maybe it plateaus down a little bit. So I feel that it wouldn't be fair to give it exact, well, we're gonna make this right now, but we're definitely making money on it. So that helps. And the thought is that when you go provision 2, a community eligibility provision, because it's free for everybody, more kids choose to eat at school. So that's the driving factor. And this is something I was going to be looking into anyhow, because we actually might be required to go to community eligibility provision for some of our schools next year based on our what's called direct certification qualification, which is when you certify kids for free meals based on participation in other programs such as food stamps or they're certified homeless, other factors. And our percentages were really were more higher this year than they have been historically. Last year we were not quite there. This year I just looked at them. We're getting really close to that you have to point. So we might need to do it anyway. So I'm going to investigate that. There are 2 different programs, and you have to look at which might be more financially sound. So that's my next job here, is to investigate which one might be better for us. And the director of Kelseyville is really convinced that that's why her sales are so high. And I've talked to our child nutrition consultants at CDE, and they said, yes, when you tend to go to provision 2 or CEP, sales statistically tend to go up a bit. So not tremendously, but some. So it could help. So we could look into that. The only other thing I saw that would be, possibly quickly is a minor amount of money, but every one of these districts was not using a laundry service. They brought in washers and dryers and were doing their own towels. So it's not a huge amount of money, but hey, that's $5,000 a year right there that we pay someone else to wash towels. But other than that, I hate to say it, there were a lot of things that I eked out of these districts that we could reasonably and timely change to fix it. But that's where we're at with that.
And our contribution from the general fund is?
Over 200,000. It's around 230. 230,000, roughly.
Something I just thought of when you were talking is that I wonder if you're still going to communicate at all with these districts, if they have any secrets on getting the older kids to turn in the free and reduced forms. I know as a former high school employee, that's when the dip happens because kids don't eat or they don't want to be shamed and, they think there's some stigma with that. So I don't know if any other districts have great ideas on how to get those families to still turn in the forms.
Well, I would suspect that they have an easier time because they have a closed campus. The kids are actually eating at high school. They're not leaving campus. So there's a motivation for them to do it.
Okay.
That's what I'm
getting
getting
so
at.
Maybe we should ask districts that don't have a closed campus.
But I did
what their
inquire
secret
about
is.
how they deal with, if they go to provision 2, how they deal with collecting financial data for your LCFF. And they said that they do not give kids class schedules nor teacher assignments until the parents actually fill out those forms. And they do it at registration, and they've set it up to be done digitally. Because that was one of the concerns, because we stopped the habit of filling out this free and reduced applications, which is I have to hound people every year, quite honestly, to really, I'm calling, I'm writing letters, I'm begging them, please fill out these forms. And there's a carrot attached to it. They're going to get a free meal. So there was concern about what if you remove that and you just do provision 2, how do you get people to fill out that form for our data that we need for our budget? So that was the first question I asked Kelseyville about the provision 2, and that's what she said. And she said they do not even get their schedule or their teacher until they do that. And they do it all during registration. It's all digital. They've got their Chromebooks, everything we're doing now at registration. So I'm like, oh, brilliant, that makes sense. And you see people doing things like you can get a raffle for tickets to a Giants game or whatever. People do other things like that, but I think the scheduling thing is perfect.
I think that's a great idea.
Upcoming preview attractions. Preview of upcoming attractions. We're holding you hostage.
Yes, and so
kidding. 3 viewers out there.
So anyway, you do have all the day that I had to try to eke out what they do differently than we do to get it down to try to looking at apples to apples, and But that's the brief summary of it, and are there any questions?
What is our reimbursement for a free meal from the government?
You're gonna ask me a number question, like I memorized these.
It's
It's about
we
$3.49, $3.57, somewhere in there.
How much?
About $3.
It's about $3.50 for a
49,
meal, and
So
it's
we
different
would-
for
yeah.
a snack.
We'd be losing money then. We have $3.91 total cost per meal prepared.
Well, that's why we're having a general fund contribution. And that total cost is the entire budget.
Right.
Yeah, not the actual food and supply costs, which is why I had to kind of flesh that out, because I've noticed on looking at these budgets that different districts have worked their budgets different ways. Lakeport, actually, custodial department pays their dishwashers. The people that stand there and wash dishes is being paid by their custodial department, not by their Fund 13. We pay that under Fund 13.
They use students for.
They pay high school students also to serve kids, which I question that as well. I'm surprised our union isn't going sideways.
Well, we have strict contract language that we cannot outsource union work.
Yeah, I was really surprised they're allowed to do that. I mean, kudos to Lakeport that they can do that. Yay, she's running a really lean program, but she's doing some very creative things around it that, you know, good for her. But yes, she actually has 8 hours worth of labor being done by high school teens on a timesheet.
185 times.
So I just,
wow. So that's where I had to kind of flesh it down to what is actual food cost, what is actually labor, meals per labor hour. Because they all work it differently. Everyone's got their way. It all comes out of the same big pot, right? Either one way or another, but it's how you break it down.
My point was, if we went to free meals for everybody, would it be more profitable?
That's what I'm going to be doing my research on, Mr. Mattson, because there is a fine line on it. When I started here, Redwood Elementary was on Provision 2. Their base year was not set up correctly, and the district was losing money. So the state, advisors at that time, pull out, stop. But our free and reduced population has changed since, and our participation has changed since. And the two different programs, one is more under participation, one is under direct certification. So I have to really, kind of get down to to see if we would potentially earn more, or would be putting ourselves at risk to lose it.
When I went to school here, they had vending machines and open campus. That was it.
Yeah, so.
Not that I'm suggesting.
No,
It just
but
evolves.
again, I said, this is, that's, a lot of that stuff changed. We used to sell snacks, that all went away. I mean, the priorities, shifted towards, a very natural, all healthy, entirely, food program, which I support and encourage and believe in. But, this is how these districts are staying more financially solvent, that's one of their things, and they sell a lot of snacks. I mean.
So the Provision 2, everyone is guaranteed a free meal.
Everybody eats for free regardless of their economic status.
Do you think that would keep more high school kids on campus?
Honestly,
Nope.
no, I don't.
Okay.
And that's the risk, that's the risky site right there.
Okay.
Most risky site anyway.
although I just see an observation, our middle school is closed campus and we're still quite low compared to the other schools. And I know I've talked to a couple of middle school kids, and their big thing is they don't want to wait in a line. So I don't know if could be like hubs, where I have no idea if you could have a leadership. I don't know how you get them into
Well,
hubs.
and I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment, because I have to tell you, I've been inside the middle school cafeteria and our cafeteria, and I was in Dana Grace today and Redwood. The kids get through the lines quickly.
But that's
There
still
is-
not fast enough.
No.
'Cause I think there'd be more
I'm gonna
kids.
tell you, it's amazing.
A minute is a lifetime for a preteen.
Yes, it is. I get that. But
Yeah.
the reality is that
crowd.
I timed it at the middle school. It was like under 7 minutes.
Say,
Everybody
that's
got served.
precious time for them.
Wow.
I mean, so I'm just saying that there's still folks that are students that
And I think
we
it's part
could
of the
still
deterrent
kind
of high
of
school.
hone in on, because I think they would eat it because it would be more convenient. But we'd have to get it to how, like, in their minds, because you figure there's a generation that won't vote because they've never used stamps, they've never gone into a post office. Like, we have to reach out to those because they're in such a different world than we came from. I mean,
Yeah.
I go to the post office every day.
No, I mean, it's a great idea, Diana. The middle school I used to teach at way back in the day, we had little carts that were out in the quad areas with point-of-sale systems. The challenge that I'm seeing with that is that it takes a person to be at that spot, and we're now down to only 3 people because we removed that one position off our department. So I'm now down to 3 people at middle school and high school, where we used to have 4. And our middle school actually has the best line situation. It's a long counter. It's more spread. The high school kids are like crammed in there, and it's very unattractive, and it makes it feel crowded even when it's not. but middle school is very spread out. It's a very fast-moving line. It's very efficient. But I've only got 3 people, and to monitor that space and to keep those lines fed and to maintain dealing with theft issues and stuff, because it is hard to control. Kids really grab things offline, turn around, hands their buddies behind them. So there is a possibility of taking that third person out into the quad, but.
And my last quick comment, 'cause I know we're running out of time, is I know my home budget, or my menu, if I'm making a different item every day, in 30 days, that's going to cost way more because I have to get different kinds of ingredients. I'm not buying in bulk. So I don't know if that's an idea, if you've ever thought about not having as much variety.
Well, there's a lot
so I don't know, I have no idea about, that was just my thought, because I wouldn't make something different every day. Like each week I might have some similarities and then kind of base off that.
Well, the interesting thing is that a lot of the ingredients aren't the same. It's the way you work it, and then it's the way you word it, and how we work the ingredients in, and we do use things in our supper program. So our food waste is actually pretty low in our kitchens. But there is definitely, there's 2 trains of thought about this, and most directors will tell you if you want to increase sales, you have to have choices. Now, interesting, that was the one thing that was really surprising to me, is Kelseyville has no choices. It's one meal for the entire district.
They're amazing. I mean, their numbers are very high. So I think sometimes you give them too many options. They say, ooh, I really don't like that, but you have to go with the hot stuff.
Yeah, I was really surprised that they were being that successful with that, because it's the first, and I've been to districts all over the state over the last 14 years, and I've seen many, many models, and I was really, that's the first one ever where I saw there were no choices at high school. I was surprised that they were doing that well. But they have a central kitchen. They did a massive, the day I was there was mac and cheese. They did a massive ad of mac and cheese.
It
went
looked
to
horrible,
every
though.
site.
I thought it looked good. I must have been hungry.
It was delicious, Kathy. It was really tasty. I mean, the picture's not pretty. I'm sorry, but it was.
I loved the visuals though, but when I saw the mac and cheese, I was like,
yeah, it didn't look good. The presentation was not. But you're also, it's hard to photograph food with my camera on a white tray and a cafeteria
well, it was
lighting.
kind of the blobbish.
Yeah,
anyway.
but trust me, it was delicious. I ate every bite.
Oh, good.
They needed the bright orange. They might have needed the bright orange.
Right, but it was
the shape. It was
it
the
didn't
shape.
translate well into print either, but it was actually very good. They did a lovely job. The food was delicious, but I was really surprised that the entire district was eating one meal and that was being successful. And I think that's also a culture thing. If that's what they're used to, that's what they're used to. And so, but every other district I visited to, and you speak to experts, you can speak to food management companies and stuff, they say you got to have choices to get your sales up. And so, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Pilar, because that was a very detailed report, and I really appreciated the pictures, even if the mac and cheese did look kind of funky.
Right?
But thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
One more question about the Division 2. So
yes,
everyone's guaranteed a free meal.
Yes.
So they fill out forms at the beginning of the year to get access to those meals?
Well, it depends which way you go. If you do community eligibility provision, no, they don't need to fill out forms. If you do provision 2, then you do what's called a base year, which is what we're doing right now at Redwood Elementary, where you capture all your data. And so everyone fills out their free and reduced meal forms, and the data is actually based on your service. So you say, 75% of the kids are free or eating, and 20 are reduced, and 5 are paid. For the next 3 years, you just count the kids, and they reimburse you on that percentage at that rate, because you get a different reimbursement if the child is free or reduced or paid. For paid kids, we get like 23 cents.
Okay.
So it's nominal. But you really want to go for the free category, and reduced is a little bit less. So they reimburse you on that percentage based on your base year data. And then you run it through for 4 years, and then you have the opportunity to either run a new base year, like if your population has changed, or if your population feels the same, or maybe it's putting you into a worse situation, but nothing that the state can prove, then you could just request an extension and keep going with that first base year.
Okay.
And this is why, which really helps Kelseyville, and when they've got an 89% free reduced rate, that's huge. And that's also an indication of the poverty level of the community, and also why kids are going to eat no matter what.
Right. So Anna has printed out some copies of Pilar's report. They're on the back table over here if anybody would like a copy.
And it'll be in the board packet too, now that, for people at home. And
yeah, probably more data than you want, but I had to eke it all out myself. So I'm like, I've done it. If you want to see it, you can look at it, or line your bird cage, but it's there.
Thanks for taking the time.
You bet, absolutely. It's what I'm here for. It's my job.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you know where to find me if you have other questions after tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ladies, for coming too. We have 2 Redwood.
Our
cafeteria.
Yes.
I hear
Thank
ya.
you, ladies, for
Thank
coming.
you.
Remember, tomorrow's Friday.
And Monday's a holiday.
And a long weekend.
Yep.
Enjoy.
No, take Monday off, ladies. Good job.
Okay, so we'll plug along, we'll make it to the reports before we take a break. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. All right, the Career and Technical Education Grant report.
So this is a requirement that we have annually to give the board a report. So I asked our CTE teachers, that's agriculture, culinary, software systems and development, which is the two gentlemen in the back here, arts, media, entertainment, industry, which is Mr. Ransom, and then we have residential and commercial construction, which is our wood shop. So I will read to you what they provided me. The agriculture department is busy as usual. Our agri-science pathway is complete this year with students enrolled in the advanced agri-science course. We hope students are made aware of the importance of completing a pathway through the agriculture classes and from the school staff. We have a large continuing project that we are hoping to finish this year. We're constructing a 30 by 60 greenhouse that will be used for agri-science projects in all of the agri-science courses. This project has been completed with volunteer time from community members and funds from FFA fundraisers and donations from community members. The school farm continues to be a learning environment for all agriculture students for class and supervised agriculture experience projects. So that's our FFA program, our ag program, and thank you again to them for being here today. Culinary. This year in culinary arts, the introductory class spent the first semester covering the basics. During finals week in December, 72 students took their basic food handlers exam, and 92% of the students passed. The teacher, Ms. Vala, is most excited about the advanced culinary class. In addition to several catering jobs this year, they've had a very successful holiday art sale at which included the middle school culinary students' homemade jam. They also collaborated with the ag department in December and sold 222 fried chicken dinners. This week, the class launched their new business, the FBHS Culinary Club's Coffee Cart. The student-run enterprise will be selling espresso drinks and baked goods to staff only, during break. I know. That was my concern. I said, we can't do this to students. Sorry, students. Software systems and development. This year in digital media, the students learned basic Google Suite applications such as Google Maps, Google Forms, Google Slides. After that, students researched and studied advertising techniques, marketing campaigns, and then developed their own ad campaigns selling fictional products. They've analyzed how teens behave and interact online and how big data is using their social media to market them. Currently, students are learning how to use an audio software program called Audacity to edit music tracks. Next, they will move on to recording their own vocals and using it as voiceover for a video project. And just a shout out to our 2 software and systems development students in the back who continue to film and broadcast for our 3 YouTube viewers. And I'm hoping, there are 7 YouTube. We have already increased our viewership by 100%. So I want to thank all 7 of you out there. It's pretty exciting stuff. Arts, media, and entertainment. Industry sector pathway. This is Stephen Ransom's class. In the fall 2018 semester at FBHS, the Media and Design pathway began the first year of new CTE courses. The 2-year pathway completion requires a full year of survey of the arts course and a second year of the media studies course. These classes are designed to prepare students for college and career readiness in arts, media, and design sectors. So during the first semester, the AME pathway has completed and secured competitive grant-based funding that will supplement technology, materials, and general resources for the FBHS AME program. The pathway has begun the expansion of technology and equipment that supports industry standard learning. The professional community outreach includes projects have included and partnered with local businesses to create venues to showcase student work in our community and beyond. The pathway has begun to partner with local artists and craftspeople who are enriching student projects, giving feedback, and providing professional support to the program. The pathway is in the process of resource lending with Mendocino College and looking into merit-based scholarships that assist FBHS students who would like to enroll in related college courses. The pathway has secured a partnership with a local gallery that will allocate an annual show space for student work from FBHS once a year. The next show is scheduled for February. Much more in the works and under the hood. Please look forward to our progress. And then our final pathway is residential and commercial construction. The beginning pathway this year has created several projects. Students have communicated, collaborated, and created a variety of projects using the concepts they've learned in class. The students have done math units, which they put to work to build a variety of items, including benches, tables, planter boxes, shelving units, and a variety of other small projects. This semester, the class plans on building and installing benches for the stadium, as well as building sheds. The advanced classes have been working on a variety of projects, as well as building little free libraries for the community. And I don't know if folks have heard that. They're big cabinets and putting in books for free libraries for the community. So that's been great. So that is our CTE report.
So is the AME replaced what used to be just called art and ceramics and stuff like that?
Yes. And the teachers emailed me all of this within the last 2 days, which is why it's not in the board report, but I will send it to Anna so it goes into the minutes in the board packet.
Any questions?
All of these programs are funded by this grant.
So it's a match, kinda. So what I mean by that is we pay for every $2 we pay, we get $1.
Well, that's CT.
That's okay. So Perkins, we get about $18,000, and there's no match required for that. They just that money has to go to CTE programs. CTE again is Career Technical Education, and then the CTE Career Technical Education Incentive Grant. So CTEIG, we all call it CTIG. For the CTE Incentive Grant, we are at the end of the 3rd year of that cycle. The first year, I want to say that the first year was a 1-to-1 match. The second year, it was a 1 to 2/3 match. And now in the 3rd year, it's a 1 to 1/3 match. We're moving into the new 3-year cycle for the CTE Incentive Grant. We're putting in that application. Mary Makala, God bless her, is helping us do that and navigating all of the things that go with this. Mary was our local CTE aficionado expert on the coast, so we are still trying to use her resources as much as possible. So we are applying for this next CTE cycle, and that is a 2-to-1 match. So for every $2 we put out, a state, if we get the grant, the state would give us $1. So things like we pay for the salaries, and then we hope to get the CTE incentive grant to keep supporting and funding the program, because they're expensive programs to fund.
That's 9 minutes, just.
Pardon?
I'm
9
trying
minutes?
to do a good job, you guys.
I'm done.
Well,
CTE.
I feel like such a negative Nelly when I'm.
ongoing
It's time.
So it was a 3-year
Yeah,
grant,
did it
now
cover-
it's gonna be every year, so we can reapply and get money
okay.
every single year, it's gonna continue on.
Nice. Well, it's wonderful.
So
Is it
we
a
hope we
1-to-1
get,
match?
with the 2-to-1
2-to-1.
match,
2-to-1.
2-to-1,
So it turns into an annual,
right.
starting next school year.
You have to apply each year,
Right.
but, yeah, once you're in it, in that cycle, it's like the Perkins, I think.
Is it really competitive?
It's supposed to be, but we're gonna find out, because the first go around, the state put more money out, and everybody, if you applied, you got something. So now we are told it's being competitive. We are applying for roughly $170,000 because we can show $340,000 in expenses. So it went up a little. So now we're going to apply for more. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. I don't even know what to say about grants anymore.
We're in a good position because we have very successful ongoing programs that are well established. So I think that positions us well to get some of the funding. But we don't know how many people are going to do it, and it's going to be, depending on how many people there are that want it, is how much money everybody gets.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Thank you. All right, we have some folks from Three Rivers Charter School.
Thank you. All right. Hopefully you all received this.
It's in our packet, I think. Maybe not.
Isn't it? I didn't get it.
Maybe not. That's Dana Gray's. We didn't.
You came in this afternoon. Not sure. Thank you.
It's cumbersome.
All right, good evening. So I will be giving you an update as to how the school is doing and.
Could you tell the people at home your name?
My name is Roger Coy.
There we go. And you are?
I am the director of Three Rivers Charter School.
There we go.
We have 7 people that wanted to know.
The 7 people wanted to know. In case they
All
weren't
right.
watching before.
So some of the numbers have been finalized that weren't finalized earlier when we met, so hope to go over that. How do I move this?
Did you turn it off? Could you?
No, I didn't turn it off, but I can help.
Thanks, Linda.
Yes,
Start over.
it is on. Okay. It is on.
Okay, there it
There.
goes.
Ooh.
Uh-oh, did I see that?
Yeah, Becky did that.
Do you need to point it over there?
I could just press the button. You tell me when, Roger. I
All
am
right.
so good at this.
Will do. Okay, now. Okay, thank you. Okay, so as far as enrollment, I put some numbers on this from last year as well, so you can see a comparison. Our enrollment this year is 109 students. It was 114 last year. EL students, we have 4 this year. We were at 5 last year. SED is at 63.3%. We were at 71% last year. Special ed is at little over 7%, and we were at 6% last year. The main statistic on the race section has to do with the Hispanic, which according to our MOU, we're trying to pull that within 10% percentage points of Fort Bragg. And we did get some good movement on that this year. We went from 14% last year to 21% this year. So we got some good growth. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so this is shows the statistics as far as students that move from Fort Bragg to our school, and also the students that move from our school back to Fort Bragg. And as you can see for this year, we had 21 students that transferred to Fort Bragg Unified, and we received 19 students from Fort Bragg. So as I mentioned before, it's typically, I mean, it's a very close balance every year. It's within a couple of students that move back and forth. Our chronic absenteeism, last year it was at 12.2%. Currently, right now, we're at 13%. The state is running right around 11% or so. So we're trying to get equal, if not below that. Of course, in the county, we all struggle with that because the county runs closer to 20% in Mendocino County. So we're doing pretty good with that. We've completed our audit. There were no findings. And our reserves are sitting pretty good. We're at 80% reserves, which means we have about a 10+ month cushion there. We're saving up, looking for new facilities, so that's why we're building that up a little bit. Last year we discussed the idea of putting in a new curriculum at the school. We did that. We adopted a new policy. We went out and we brought in Wit and Wisdom for our ELA program for grades 1 through 6. And for math, grades 1 through 5, we put in Bridge. For grades 7 and 8, My Perspectives is the ELA program, and Illustrative is the math program.
Ready?
Okay. This is another statistic that's important. Per our MOU, we were looking for a 3% increase in our students that met or exceeded standards on the CAS score. As you can see, from 16-17 school year to the 17-18 school year last year, we got a much better jump. ELA program for 5th grade is 17% increase. Math was 18. Grade 6 went down, minus 18%, which wasn't good. Math was a plus 14%. Grade 7 was a plus 25%. Math was a plus 20%, and grade 8 was a plus 9% and on ELA and plus 18% on math. So overall, other than the grade 6 ELA, we got a significant jump on all the CAS score. And with the new ELA program that went in on the 6th grade, we're hoping that we can do better as far as the CAS this year with that. Okay, the next year, the next page shows the suspension and chronic absenteeism dials that come straight off of the dashboard. I wanted to make sure that I reviewed our dashboard with you. A lot of the items on the dashboard you'll find are grayed out or blacked out for us just simply because we have low number of students, and once you drop below normally 11 students in any particular group, they stop recording that. So we have that in quite a few places, but there are a few places that we do show. One is the upper left shows that all students, as far as our suspension rate, of course, was in the blue because we didn't have any suspensions last year. So that'll be fine. Our SED was also at 0, so that's in the blue. As far as the chronic absenteeism, that's an area that we're all trying to work on. For the particular groups that we're talking about, there was our chronically absent kids show on the dashboard to be at 8.5%, and the SED group, our chronically absent, was at 8.7%. That went down, so it shows it to be in the green. The all students, it shows, went up a little bit at this point, so it's in the orange, okay, which is how that works. Okay. As far as ELA goes on our dashboard, it shows the results for that. We have we're 10 points below standard on that. However, as I was mentioning before, we increased our overall mean score 27 points, so it shows yellow. SED kids, we increased the points on that 32.8. So even though we need to obviously bring those scores up, there was a significant increase last year. In the race section, it only shows one really, and that is the white, which there was an increase of 22.4 points, 2.8 points below standard, and it shows in the green. It did reflect the score for the Hispanic group over on the left. I don't know why it didn't put a dial on there, but it shows that that group increased over 40 points. But because I think they're still significantly below standard, that I guess they didn't show it. I'm not sure. Okay. This shows a graph which shows our improvement in ELA, and it's a comparison on the state level for grades 5 and 6. In 2017 CASP, we were at 62% as far as this state ranking. We raised it last year up to the 78th percentile. For grade 6, it went from 53% up to 59%. And below that, I showed the graph for the last 3 or 4 years, so you can see the trends that we're running on our scoring. Okay. This is the for grades 7 and 8. We went from the 30 percentile up to the 59 percentile. In 7th grade, and in 8th grade, we went from 14 percentile, which obviously is just absolutely terrible, up to 32 percentile. And you can see those graphs are a little bit more strained, but we're headed in the right direction with those. Okay, next page. This is the math, taking a look at the math. We have, again, we show in the yellow, we've increased points for all students, 42.7, for SED, 44 points. Again, it shows the Hispanic improvement, 50 points, and for the white group, 45 points. Okay. This is a state comparison again. We went from 22% to last year we raised it to 60%. In the state, and for, I'm sorry, that was for 5th grade, and for 6th grade, we went from 42% to 68%. You can see the graphs below that. And then for the 7th and 8th grade, the format got strained. Okay, for 7th grade, it went from 60% to 69%, and from 8% to 39%. So I think we're going in the right direction with all of those. We showed a nice improvement. We have a lot of work to do on some of those different grades. But I think, as I mentioned, with some of the changes we made, especially the main thing that we changed last year, we didn't have time to put in any new curriculum or work with that. I mean, we adopted the curriculum, but this is the first year that it's going in. But what we did change is we were able to change I think the general attitude in the school towards state testing. We had a fairly poor attitude towards it. We had never been that interested, but because of the importance of doing that, we really worked hard with the students and the parents, and I think we've made a shift with that. And I think it's showing. I think that was our most significant change last year. The last slide is just the overall student performance as it shows on the dashboard. Academic performance overall, yellow for ELA, yellow for math. Graduation rate, it doesn't show it. We had 2 graduates last year, so we had 100%. This year will be somewhere around the same. We've just about phased out our high school. That was part of the deal that we talked about last year, is that we were going to shut down the high school, move those students over to Fort Bragg High, and we're down to about 5 or 6 kids left. They really want to try to finish as much of their program. They've been at our school since they were in 1st grade, so they're really wanting to push through a couple of them. But they all understood that they were going to be put on independent study. They were going to be on a separate program. We didn't have a classroom for them, but after this year, they're moving. The ones that aren't finishing are moving back over to Fort Bragg. So, and I think they're feeling more comfortable with that concept. Doing that this year was kind of hard. For some of the kids, you know, they were a little nervous about it, and the idea of coming into a much bigger school and changing classes and all that stuff, that was kind of a scary concept for them. But they've gotten used to the idea, and of course they all talk to each other. So the kids that have come over to Fort Bragg High, A lot of them come back over to the school and hang out there, and we talk, and they talk to the other kids, and they're all feeling so much better about it that I don't think there'll be a problem with this last group. So chronic absenteeism again shows orange. I think it should give us better credit than that because I think we're getting close to the state. But and then the suspension rate, of course, is pretty good. Okay, that's it for the dashboard and for our school. And I'll take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Roger, and thank you, Three Rivers, for your support in this endeavor. I really appreciate the changes that are viewed. We talked about this at length last year, and it was a little tricky, but I think you and the school and the staff, the students, families have handled it beautifully. So thank you, and we're looking forward to future improvement as well. So
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So let's move on to the CSEA report.
And I won't take up my 10 minutes.
You're very efficient.
Hi, my name is Linda Stevens. I'm the past president for our CSEA chapter. I'm here in the place of our current president, Danette Sawyer, who is homesick. Our regular chapter meeting was held on January 8th, where we discussed a number of items, including the results of our bargaining survey, our upcoming negotiations, and the lack of specified adult bathrooms at Redwood. We spent a lot of time on that. Evidently, the 1 2-stall adult bathroom has been converted to a single use to accommodate our gender neutral students, and the ladies have nowhere else to go. So, but that's something that's not going to be fixed until we get a remodel when we find the money for it. Our current 3-year contract expires in June of this year. After a few unsuccessful attempts, our negotiating team met on January 15th as a group to draft our opening letter to the board based on the results of our bargaining survey. Once CSEA approves it, we will submit it to Mrs. Walker for presentation to the board, hopefully by the February meeting. Thank you for all you do. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. And do we have an FBDTA report?
I don't think so. I think they left.
Okay. Well, I think it's 8 o'clock. We'll take a 10-minute break and let us stretch, and
Okay, I'll time.
we'll be back. We'll be back in 10.
Had my new job.
All right.
It's also the bathrooms are open.
I don't know. Becky, do you have a key to the restaurant? Are they open?
Yes.
Oh,
I do have a key.
The girls' room is open, or it was in there.
Let's go this way. Let's go this way.
There's a couple next to each other.
You are?
And I'm short.
Just jump right in there.
I know that's what I was saying. Whenever they zoom in on the
Thank you, honey, for pausing right there. That's exactly
Well,
Let me wait for Wendy.
Oh. We have one more missing. Can we do we can do the consent without her? Yeah. Okay, let's, in the essence of, she won't mind. In the essence of time. So we're gonna move to the approval of the agenda consent items. So these are controversial items. Are there any items that,
I don't want to pull anything, but I do have a comment to make on the warrant register. There used to be little explanations behind the expenses of what those were, not just the person and the amount.
Okay.
They were kind of helpful.
The code?
No, I would say like,
I can try.
travel
I don't know, it's out of the new program, so I'll have to play with it and see if we can get a little more detail on it.
just give us a little more detail
Make a
than what it was.
note.
Not questioning any of them, just that.
Yeah, no, that's
there was a
fine.
couple that I
You're
was
right,
curious
the
about.
categories, you're
I didn't
right.
wanna bother
Okay.
anybody.
Used to say travel reimbursement
you're right.
or stuff like
Okay.
that.
I'll see if we can get more detail on that.
Any other questions or concerns, or we're good with leaving them? Okay, I'm gonna ask Diana to read, we read them, wait, no, we do the
Ask for a
motion first.
I move to approve the agenda consent items.
I second. Okay,
And I
Diana, will you please read the consent calendar?
Yes, 9.1 is warrants. Consider approval of warrants dated December 2018, board meeting minutes of December 13, 2018, personnel action report, and Williams reporting second quarter. Approve of Williams uniform complaint submission.
Okay. No vote? Oh, thank you, Anna. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the board action items. So our first, we're reversing the order tonight. So we have our SARC report from alternative ed sites.
Oh, sure, Becky gets her wish, because
I told Connie she had to come up to the podium.
I know. So I'm Connie Belli from the Alternative Ed Sites. I'm not sure, usually I don't, usually you guys ask me questions. If you have any questions about my SARCs, I have 3. It's basically the same information for all 3. Just.
So, since I am now the
Yes, you are.
alt
Yes,
ed
yes, you
designee,
are. You
I
are.
was going through the repair status, and I saw a couple of items that were in the poor, and one of them said structural damage / roof. And then I called up Barry, and I said, do we have structural issues with the roofs? He goes, no, that takes in everything. So I'm assuming it's like siding.
It's the siding. The siding has dry rot, and the floors have dry rot. They've been repaired a couple times, but
Right.
they're, they're not in good shape.
Right.
Yeah.
Better the walls than the roof, but I understand, so.
Right, the walls are, they've been repaired, and
Right.
we've done the best we can, and, they're still standing,
Right.
and that's a good thing.
And we've talked about the alt ed site
Right.
Mm-hmm.
for many meetings, at least since I've
Yeah.
stepped into the superintendent
And
seat.
so that was interesting that, Barry reminded me that we're doing a district-wide evaluation of all the sites, and I would suspect it's gonna be pretty close to the top of the
Mhm.
priority list, I hope, anyway.
I hope.
So
I will say that we are, we just hired a new counselor, Sherry Ackerson moved over to the elementary sites. So we just hired Carla Leach, so I'm very excited, and she's starting next Thursday.
Yeah.
It'll
That's
be
great,
really
yeah.
nice. Yeah, it'll be really wonderful.
Had interaction with Carla, she's done a great job.
Yeah, she has. Really great job. So we're rolling along. We're, rolling along, doing restorative practices, and that gets better, every year, and we do more. And we're doing well with just having the 3 teachers for the high school program. They're working things out. There's a few bugs, but, each quarter has been better than the last quarter.
And I have a question too,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a little taken, I understand structural and all that kind of stuff, but when, on the one for cleanliness, now to me, that seems like that would be something we could fix versus fix quickly, I should say.
We can, and we have. We have young men who, I'm going to be really honest, young men who have a hard time aiming and hitting the toilet. They seem to hit many other places, so, the bathrooms are a constant trouble spot.
Okay, well, that makes, at least, I was just kind of wondering.
It's not pest.
It's not
pest and vermin infestation.
No, I was
It's not
just
pest and
thinking.
vermin, it's not-
No,
it's not,
I was thinking cat, I don't know, I wasn't sure, so I wanted to ask.
No, yeah, and the janitor does a great job every day, and it's just that he's there at like 2:00, and so before 2:00, there are the bathrooms are especially. I mean, it's just.
And that's the other issue is we don't have a full-time counselor designated, a full-time
Right.
custodian designated to alt ed. So the custodian comes roughly around 2:00, is there
Right.
for 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
About 2 hours?
Yeah.
Does the cleaning, and then the site is untouched until the next time at 2:00.
Right.
So that's the difficulty. There are roughly 50 students enrolled in alt ed.
Yep.
And so
It
That's
and
where
it's
the cleanliness is
and when
from.
it rains, they're all in the lunchroom, and it's they're kids, and so it's not it's not going to be super duper clean after lunch, and that's why he comes at about 2:00. So, and that's better because at the end of the day, there's he's cleaned everything for the next day. But the bathrooms are always, I think, going to be an issue with guys.
Well, and
sorry to the guys, but
we struggle with how to teach our young people about their own cleanliness and picking
Yes.
up after themselves and what we can do and what we can't do. When I was in school, it used to be that one of the things was that we had bucket duty and we had garbage duty to keep campus beautification, and we can't really do that now.
Right.
So we have to do it on a voluntary basis or find a creative way to inspire folks to stay clean. So it's one of our challenges, but
It is.
the cleanliness mark is truly about the concerns with the bathroom.
Right.
Nothing about pests, nothing about vermin. So
right, it's the bathrooms.
thank you for bringing that up,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't want someone to read this report and
No.
think,
Yeah.
Go, oh my God. No, it's the bathrooms.
Okay.
So just a quick question, in the school safety plan,
Mhm.
talk about a grand jury report. Is that old, or
in
says there are cameras in both lighthouse
It's in there,
classrooms
yeah.
schools
Yeah, I read it too.
around the
Right,
campus
what did I
recommended by
put?
the grand jury report.
Right.
I think the grand jury report's several years old. It's
Yeah.
it's just telling you that that's what they had
Why
talked
they're doing
about. Yeah, and that, so now we have cameras, in all but the Noyo High School classrooms, because the Noyo kids are not the most challenging of the kids. And then we have them at various places around the campus, to get to get shots of everywhere on the outside of the campus.
And they're connected to the police department on an as-needed basis?
So what that means
No.
is that we have we have the ability to hook our police
Right.
department into it if there's an emergency. They do not have access right now.
No.
So our police
Sorry.
officers don't walk around and look at the cameras on their phone.
No,
Um,
we can
okay.
plug into it, or, if need be, we can export it for them to see
Okay.
if there's information they need. Anything else?
And I asked Becky, but I just wanted to, so people don't think that we aren't paying attention, but we made sure this time that the SARCs matched
The fit report,
the
yes.
report.
Yes.
Which
I
is why
think-
you're seeing fair.
Yes,
Right.
that's why you're seeing fair, and
So
that's
what I was
probably
just talking
why
about,
Laura and I got, yes,
Yeah.
if they match.
So in our audit, there was, for the
Yes.
people at home, the audit, the one thing we got dinged on was that these did not match the facilities inspection
Correct.
report, so.
And just to back up, SARC stands for School Accountability
Sorry.
Report Card.
Yes.
It's something that is due annually to the state by February 1st of each year. So in our January board meetings, we always give this report. The board decides to approve or not approve, and then once they're approved, then we submit them to the California Department of Education.
And I will say I'd asked Becky about doing one SARC, because it's all alternative ed, but.
Becky said no.
Well, and with good reason. I mean, they're different, they're different, they are different schools, and they operate differently, and so.
And it really
makes
wasn't
sense.
my judgment.
No,
with the
no, no.
gavel. This is a CDE requirement. So this is.
And it's for each school, so.
Yes.
So they may look amazingly similar in the narrative.
Right, sometimes I had to go, I was going back and forth
Right, because
between
the narrative,
trying to.
the narrative is the same as far as the services our kids get and the services we provide, because all 3 schools do restorative practices, and all 3 schools have a counselor, and all 3 schools do groups, and all 3 schools access a youth project. They don't all, do necessarily the same curriculum or have the same schedules, and Shelter Cove only has 1 teacher and it's a self-contained classroom, and so those things are different. But the overarching, and the professional development we provide is all the same for the entire site.
So one of the things I'm going to look into is if we called alternative ed like one school and then had academies in those schools, like Noyo Academy, the Bridge Academy, Lighthouse Academy, Shelter Cove Academy, and then that way she could do one SARC.
Right.
The difficulty is that Lighthouse and Shelter Cove are community day schools, so we may not be able to do that. But I'm trying to figure out a way, because they all are housed on one site.
Right.
Really, her site plan and her SARC should be one document, not 3. So.
Right.
We're doing some investigative
We
work
are.
to see how we can creatively get this done. For right now, though.
Right now, it's split, but if you see the narrative looks the same, that's why.
And is that because of funding sources?
The
That's
funding
why.
sources for community day schools are different, and they're run differently, yeah.
And the day requirement is different. The age
Yeah.
requirements are different for Noyo for a continuation school.
Right.
So we're going to see what we can do.
And how you get to a community day school is different than, because you apply to Noyo and it's voluntary, and the other 2 are not voluntary. Mostly. They're not, well, they aren't. They're not voluntary. You're referred there. So, it comes with other strings.
Right. Okay, any other questions for Connie?
Thank you. No? Okay.
Oh,
Thank
and look
you.
at that, right at
Perfect.
10
Good job.
minutes. Okay, and then Miss Reese has been on the podium a
We need to
lot.
take a vote. We take a vote.
Oh, thank you. Boy, I am slipping here. That we are on the action items. So, can I have a motion to
I'll make a
approve?
motion, we approve the SARC for Alt Ed.
I second.
Any discussion?
Good job, Connie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Student Rep Judah,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Makala,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli,
Yes.
and President Babcock.
Yes. Not doing a very good job, President Babcock.
Great job. It's a
All right,
new year,
Miss
it'll be
Reese,
great.
I
All
know.
right, get that timer going, here we go. All right, so I'm back on here for Redwood, and this is our school accountability report card for Redwood. I would like to just point out maybe 3 tidbits, otherwise it's pretty standard. I did include the FIT update, but it was the normal one from last time, but it's okay. So the first update is actually in the FIT report itself. Because of the work that the Greater Fort Bragg Field Association has been working on, I wanted to make sure that that was included in our narrative, and so that was entered as well. And then our school had the short throw projectors installed, and that's a major piece to our campus maintenance overall. So I just want to make sure those were noted as major changes from the last couple of years' narratives. The other one is the teacher credentials. I realize that we've got an increase of teachers not with full credentials. We are working very hard with recruiting teachers who have their credential and supporting teachers. So if you've got any questions about that, but I think I've got 2. One just earned her credential mid-year, but they have all been approved by the Commission on Teaching. They've got their permits, they've got the appropriate paperwork, and but we're working on making sure that our staff is supported. I just think that our site has the most, I believe, in the district. So, and then the third thing I wanted to make sure we focused on was in the professional development. This year we really have pushed for professional development, and not just with our literacy coach, although that's a big staff there, the classified staff, school counselor, school psychologist. So our counselor went to a conference early in the summer. School psychologist has also attended a conference. This typically doesn't really happen very often because you want to have the bulk of your teaching staff go to professional development opportunities. But it's great to have our staff in any capacity get updated professional development in any capacity. So our classified staff, I just met with them on Wednesday and asked them what their next topics would be too. So that professional development is in progress and it's running smoothly at Redwood. So there's the three main differences. I know that the dashboard will be implemented with the SARC. It's automatically updated, and then it's not, oh, I thought it was.
This
Sorry,
gets
my bad.
updated once we call DTS.
Right.
DTS will do that, yeah.
So DTS will update that one, but most recently was our chronic absenteeism declined. So we're working hard and continuing that trend this year as well. Any questions?
I had one. It says that there's a full-time psychologist. Is that really the case, or is it still split between Redwood and Dana Gray?
That should be half-time. That should be 0.5.
Okay, I think.
I just saw it.
I have psychologist as 0.5.
Okay, I must have got it mixed up with another one. Okay.
But if
Maybe
you'd
it's
like to give
Dana.
me a
Maybe it's Dana
psychologist.
Gray. I'm sorry. Maybe my notes
Okay.
are. That's the arrows next to Dana Gray.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, ours is still 0.5.
Okay.
So then I just had a quick, the safety, it just says good and fair, and that's just how that works. You put both of them on, and then it updates to good on the bottom.
Yes, that was the overall rating that we received on the FIT. So
But
that
it's,
was
you have good and fair. So was it supposed to be just fair?
Or
No,
is-
for the safety aspect, both were marked on my FIT.
Oh, really?
So I just don't know that means you've corrected it. Maybe that's what
Connie
that
had
means.
one that had
Was
two
it
boxes
because
too.
all the chemicals were moved after they?
No, so there was, that one indicator had two markings with the comments of, we had cleaning supplies, which were, once they were identified, removed out of student access, but that's why that was marked fair. But then the overall rating has the one rating of good.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, great question.
Unless my notes are wrong on that too, Connie, if I'm off a line. But I think you had one that was in two columns too. So thank you for clarifying that. Oh, see, now it's on, I'm off a line here.
Somebody be one of the three schools though.
Something I just noticed, I don't know how important it is, but on the alt ed SARC, it has the wrong website actually. I think it has the old website still.
Or does it have that?
It has FBUSD.org.
Sure, you can call me out.
Good catch.
I do
He's an
so
editor.
well.
Thank you, Judah.
Thank you, Judah.
Okay.
Now I just have a question about a chart that seems to be in all of them. The expenditures per pupil. I don't know how to read that.
I think that's popular.
That was
It is.
populated by DT.
Downloaded by CDE.
Yeah,
They
it's popular.
download that information directly from CDE website.
Yeah,
Okay.
they download it for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we work with DTS, Scott, and that's Document Tracking Services. So they maintain our reports for us for the single plan for student achievement, which we commonly refer to as the site plan, our school safety plans, and our SARC reports, our school accountability report card. We go with this service because they extrapolate the data for us and load it in for us. So much of this is pre-populated when the principals get in for this year.
Bless the fit.
And the FIT stands for Facility
Inspection Tool.
Inspection Tool. Thank you.
Acronyms.
I know, it takes a village.
Love them. Okay, any other questions for Ms. Reese? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So if no questions, I'll call for a motion.
I move that we approve the SARC for Redwood Elementary.
I second.
Any discussion?
President Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Bailey,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Meckel?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
And Student Rep Peter?
Yes.
Okay. And we are leaving 10.3 to next week. And so we have 10.4, the FBDTA negotiation openers.
So we sunshined this last month, and this was brought before you, so now it's been sitting for 30 days, so now you have the ability to approve it so that we can begin negotiations.
Okay. Any questions for Becky or?
And the only reason why the letterhead is incorrect is because when I wrote the letter, we did not have our election yet.
Right. Right, but I think it was wasn't it 2 presidents ago? Okay, I didn't want you to redo it, I just wanted, because I know it's a.
Yeah, good job, Becky Walker.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it was fixed for future on your template, that's all.
No, thank you, sorry.
My gosh. Anyway, okay. I ask for a motion for approval of the negotiation openers.
I move to approve the FBDTA negotiation opener.
I second.
Any discussion? Okay, thank you.
Student Rep Judah?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Meckel?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
And President Beck?
Yes. Okay, 10.5, we have another intern coming through. I think it's very normal and customary. We just have to put it on the books.
This is for our counselor.
Any questions regarding this additional intern? Okay. All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Make a motion, we approve item 10.5, approval of intern waiver.
Second.
Any discussion?
Trustee Meckel?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
President Babcock?
Yes.
And Student Rep Judah?
Yes.
Okay, great. We made it through the action items. So we now have 2 information and discussion items, and the first is the CSEA Sunshine Letter.
So the CSEA letter, needs to be sunshined for 30 days. I presented this to Jeanette Sawyer and Linda Stevens, and also CC'd a copy to their CSEA rep. It should be a full open contract year, so we can negotiate more than 3 things. So there are 4 things on here. The CSEA master agreement, I think, is pretty tight, so I'm not too concerned about it. So this is just information. This is what we plan to work with them on this year. And then at the February meeting, let's see, today is the 17th?
February 14th.
So we'll have to approve it at the March board meeting. So it has a full 30 days.
I see you've made Becky sign this one.
Yes, notice the letter.
There was 2 presidents on this one.
There was.
Oh, that's.
We're letting you down slow. Me down slowly, merging you in.
That's right. Poor Jennifer. She just got. Okay, so any questions for Becky on this negotiation? No? Okay, well, this is not an action item, so I know we don't have to do that. Oh, any questions from the public? Okay, all right. So, ladies, if you want to respectfully, because this might take a while.
This is 135 pages of board policies that we get to review.
That's, yes, I'm offering you to
Really?
respectfully go home.
Oh, and escape.
Thank you, ladies, for coming and all the work you do at our schools, please.
Thank you.
For having us, and
Okay.
We will too. We're breaking in our new members. We're having 3 meetings in 2 weeks with the new guys.
Awesome.
We're just loading up the fun. Okay, so it is time again to go through the board updates. There is 135 pages. And I think actually, unfortunately, this one has some, there's lots
There's
of
a lot.
options.
There's lots
Yeah,
of stuff.
and there's lots of options, so we're gonna have to dig in and get through it. For the public, the first time we see it, we will just discuss it and see if there's any options that we need to make or changes we need to make, and then next month is when they actually come back to us for official approval. So, this is our first read as a group and discussion. So we'll just start, they're in different order on here than there.
Yeah, the
I
only
think,
thing's
so it's-
different
yeah.
is that math placement is.
It got moved up, is that, okay.
It's on the bottom on the list, on the cover page, but it's actually in the, right, I think it's, might be after athletic competition, so that's,
okay.
it's all there.
There should be an order in the packet of number, but I think you might be right.
Exactly.
And I got one mixed.
Because I thought I missed it, I'm like, I swear I read that.
So, Mary and Scott, we usually just go through, and stop, where there's options or where anybody has any questions. So we'll just start with
How often do we do this process?
whenever they come through, so we get batches from.
CSBA does their updates online 4 times a year. And I tried, for a while, it took me a while to catch up, but now I try to keep pace with them and bring them as quickly after they've done their updates as I can go through them.
And we really appreciate that Anna goes through and puts the red and the green and the blue, and makes it a lot, it saves us some time, thank you. Okay, so the first one is the charter school renewal, which I thought was kind of interesting timing.
So this is really about a new law, and it's, the Reader's Digest version of this is about charter school applications. They have to be nonprofit, not for-profit. There wasn't anything in here that I thought was incredibly earth-shattering, to be quite honest with you. There's an optional paragraph.
Which it's about making sure that we have enough time and they have enough time if we did deny it, that I think we should put it in. I mean, I don't see why we
Well, I don't know
wouldn't.
what's in our MOU, because I thought it said if we could require them to provide, if they want to renew 6 to 9 months prior, and not just the 60 days, so.
I liked this optional paragraph. I thought it just made it a little bit clearer and it not so last minute. I don't anticipate that Three Rivers is going to do anything last minute, so I'm not terribly worried about it. From the experience we had last year with the process, we started this a year in advance, so I wasn't too worried about it.
So this doesn't limit them to the 6 to 9 months. They can come a year ahead if they want to.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The way I understood it is to make sure that there was that time.
Moving along.
Okay.
Is communication with the public.
So did this online fundraising, does that include the Donors Choose?
Yes.
Would they have to come to us?
Yes. So Donors Choose has changed. So originally when Donors Choose began, it was a donation to the teacher, and the teacher got to keep the stuff. So for instance, we had a teacher who applied for Donors Choose, applied for 10 graphing calculators, took the graphing calculators with her when she changed districts. And to a certain extent, it made sense, right? The teacher
did the work,
got the donation, is using the equipment, and then moves that equipment with them to their next school site. One of the difficulties was, what if the teacher doesn't move school sites? Does the teacher then take the donation and sell it on eBay?
I didn't take the stuff I got.
Okay. So anyway, this is in response to a lot of donations that are happening. Who's actually getting the donation? Who gets to keep the donation? Schools have processes and procedures. So when we receive a donation, it comes to us. We're not allowed to sell it on eBay unless you, as a board, designate it as surplus, and then it goes out to a bid if it's over a certain amount. So this really is just trying to clean up some of the things that are brand new to our system. And I believe on Donors Choose they actually made the change as well. It's a donation to the school now.
We have had a couple come through as acknowledgements. I didn't realize why, but now I do.
Yeah, that's communication.
Oh, I have the arrow to that, sorry.
Oh,
That's-
okay.
That's not.
It's the mass mailing. The
but I
mass
thought
mailing.
that was it.
It's right above.
So I started talking about the one that Kathy was talking about, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, that's where my arrow is.
So going back to the mass mailing, that one was really about.
Which page are you on, Becky? Is that what-
Okay,
the
so if I am on page 7. Page 7.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a docket.
We're jumping around, so trying to catch up.
The big thing on here was ballot measures.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting. And on the bottom of page 8, it says newsletters or mass mailings regarding ballot measures, candidates, legislative activities, or any other campaign activities shall be sent and distributed in accordance with the law and board policy. And then on page 9, you get where the real changes are. And I have to tell you, I was a little confused on this one because when I read it, it says a mass mailing is prohibited if all of the following criteria are met. So then I'm thinking, okay, so what if 3 out of the 4 are met? Then it's not prohibited. So, and I kept thinking, well, anyway, so this one's a little tricky. Not tricky in any sense of the word, that you just have to read it correctly and know how what lens you're looking at it through. But this really is about spending public funds on things that may not be in the public interest. Does that make sense? Which is why all of these things have to be met. So.
Right, and they don't want you to mention just one board member, you know, that like you really have to be specific, no photographs. It's not, you're not trying to endorse someone. You have to be really careful.
The cost of distribution or any cost, design, production, printing exceeding $50 are paid with district funds. Well, it's pretty clear. There's no way we're going to do any mailing to the whole district for $50. It's just not going to happen. So, in any case, those are that's the big one there with communication. Any questions on that? Okay, well, so now after communication, moving on to page 10 of 135, or page 11, excuse me, gifts, grants, and bequests.
Can I ask a quick question about on page 9?
Sure.
Real quick? It says comprehensive communication plan. Do we have one of those?
Go back to page 9.
It's right under the green about the mass mailing. There's just a paragraph. And again, this all comes from CSBA. So not all of this.
So every board update that we receive comes from CSBA. That's part of our membership. Show me where you are, Scott.
Page 9, just under the green.
Under the green.
It says comprehensive communications plan.
Okay.
And this just goes to what we were talking about on Tuesday. I just didn't know if this existed for us or not.
It's kind of in our handbook protocol.
We have a plan in which to communicate. Is it a written communication plan in a public document? I don't believe so. It's
But ours, what Diana was, I think between what you guys do and what
The
we
governance
have,
handbook?
yeah, that you're the spokesperson essentially.
Right, and then if someone were to come to the media, I mean, it would be one of you
Right.
two. We wouldn't all just take that front running, and that's in the handbook.
So what they're talking about in the governance handbook that we went over on the 15th?
I would classify that means
Okay.
maybe, or maybe we need to.
No, I'd agree. Now we're on page 11. There's the online fundraising that we were just discussing.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
And does that count also with, like Boosters has an online for an annual? Does
Boosters
that-
are not part.
They're not part of, so it's totally, it doesn't,
Boosters
even though they're in.
is a separate group from the school district.
Okay.
So how boosters choose
They
to
can
spend their
choose,
money.
they can,
Mhm.
well, they can choose to do an online, even though it's, I don't know how they've never put, it's
But
on
the-
their own,
So the difference is if the boosters are the parents' clubs, they raise money through a GoFundMe or however they do it. That's to their entity under their
Right.
501c3 laws, okay?
Right.
When they then gift something to the school district, it is gifted to the school district. It's not gifted to an individual coach. an individual teacher, it's gifted to the school district.
Mm-hmm.
If the district decides, we don't want that anymore, then it goes through the board
Mm-hmm.
for surplus, and then we go through that process of either putting it out to bid, or if it's dilapidated and we can't use it anymore, and then it becomes an obsolete item, and then we can discard it. So Boosters Parents Club, separate entity.
Mm-hmm. But you can advertise for them on Facebook? That's okay, that doesn't,
When we,
just
well,
for the flyer, I guess. then
we
that's
put a
okay.
flyer out or things of that
Not
nature.
for the actual online, okay. Okay,
We don't put any links for online on
perfect.
our webpage.
okay. I think everything's pretty straightforward.
On page 16, moving right along, we have business and non-instructional operations. This is a new law.
Is this, because I'm not doing very well with my arrows here. Is
That's
this the
for
not, I think.
Financial reports and accountability.
Right, but my notes are about, we don't have school of choice, so we
Right.
take that out, right? We don't put
Right.
in the optional paragraph.
It says that you need
Correct.
to notify the auditors if you do have a district of choice. And then reporting audits, reporting and I guess of a facility project, so that was the only other thing that.
The main
talked
changes
about.
here are about district of choice and
Mhm.
facility audits. So I'm comfortable with the language on the facilities. The district of choice, that doesn't pertain to us, so we don't need that paragraph.
Right.
Yeah, we don't need the optional paragraph about district of choice.
Oh, we did?
I think we had it because I think we just approved and did it.
Okay, and then I noticed in several of these that there's supposed to be reports. So do we want to add?
I have to tell you, as I'm reading these, I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
if we do that. I don't know if we do that. So when the superintendent or designee shall annually provide the board at a public meeting information and related actuarially reports showing the estimated accrued but unfunded cost of workers' compensation claims. Do we do that?
The information is available, I don't know that we've actually
Done,
recorded
and
it.
so we should pick a time that you want that on the annual report, and we stick it in the
Well, there's a whole
perpetual
bunch of them
calendar.
in this one, in this
Mhm.
bundle. So I don't know if we can find a month that's light and kind of stick them all at once.
Well, workers' comp claim makes most sense in June, when we're done with the fiscal year, or in August, when
Well,
we begin
yeah,
the
it would
year.
be more in the fall after we have our first signal meeting where we get the prior years.
So where would that be? September or October?
Yeah.
October it is.
October
Would you like me
probably.
to go through all of these and provide a list of all the different reports requested, and then we can figure out where you want to slot them in?
Yeah, and then you and I can look
That'd
at
be
it and
great.
figure
Then
out
we
when
don't
it's
have to
available.
Do this tonight?
Mhm.
Thank you, Anna. Anna's gonna do that. So for the
Anna.
7 viewers out there, Anna's going to go
report
through
out.
these and figure out where the reports are, and
That'd
then
be
we'll
great,
find
Anna. Thank you.
a timeline of when those happen.
As long as if we say we're supposed to do them, I just,
We need to do them.
Right.
And if it's a board policy that says we need to do them, then it's non-negotiable.
Right.
We need to do them.
okay, so
So is
we,
it similar to what we have to do for Form 300 every year, previous year, workman's comp claim?
The Form 700 or Form,
For us?
700 for the board.
Form 700?
No, it's an OSHA.
Oh, for.
Oh,
right.
oh.
Of all your
no,
previous
this
year's
is-
workman's comp claims.
Well, it doesn't go through OSHA, we don't
So this
really
is not,
want to be going through OSHA
is
because
this
that
the
means something
school
really bad
version of
happens.
that?
We get a report from our JPA, our workers' comp JPA, every year about the number of claims and the increase or decrease in the whole group. So I'm sure we can come up with something to put together. And the fall is when we usually get those for the previous year, because we only meet twice a year.
Yeah, we're supposed to do the OSHA form by the end of February or something like that. So anyway, it's a similar deal, but anyway, similar but different.
everything with government is. So 4114, the transfers, there's optional here.
What page, Kathy?
We're on page 21.
21.
So in this one really has to do with collective bargaining agreements. We have the transfer policy actually sunshine for both bargaining units. So what I propose with this is when we get to it, we hold off on approving it until we get done with negotiations, and we actually hold on to this one until we're done with negotiations and we see where we're at. So that, because we're supposed to adjust this policy to our collective agreements. There's not a whole lot of shocking information on this. Most of it can stand as it is. The April 15th date is something that just needs to be addressed. So I would like to bring this to negotiations and then table this one until we're done.
Yeah, because it was interesting. It said it deletes the principal's right to refuse transfer. Like if you said, this teacher's going there, the principal would say, oh, no, that's not going to work. It takes that away. I read that.
Hold on.
It did.
There's a
I think
place
that
where
went
it
out,
talked about
right?
it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at,
Is that the voluntary or the involuntary?
I think I read it in the first one. Just saying the governing, anyway, well, you just bring it back.
so let's look at the next one, because I think the next, no, that's not it.
I mean, it's just right on the top. It just says, please, the policy updated to delete provision regarding a principal's right to refuse a teacher's transfer request. So it's
Are you
been
talking
deleted.
about the red that got crossed out?
No, that she's reading the summary on the top. So somewhere in it must have.
But you'll bring it back to us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. And that actually was a general question I had, is that at one time, I know this is fun reading for them, but that ADCO was going over these.
We're gonna go over them again.
You go over them after we're done, okay. Because there's another thing that came up a lot in this group is that the term reflect district practice. So I wanted to make sure that we were supposed to adjust the wording to fit what we were doing, so is that able to be done before the next meeting?
Yeah, we can make it happen. Well, the one that I'm really worried about in this is the high school graduation requirements.
Yeah, I had some questions about that.
Yeah.
That one I knew I had to go back, because I had,
Yeah.
So in this particular one about the transfers, we just need to table it until we're done with negotiations.
Great.
The next one is suspension and expulsion due process. It's a new law primarily because of the elementary grades, about not suspending. So we do option 1 on page 25. No students in grades K3 may be suspended for disruption or willful defiance except by a teacher pursuant to Ed Code 48910. Good night, Judah. Thank you.
Good night.
But all of this is pretty much the same. There's nothing woefully different in here. It adds in some other statutes. It talks about preschool.
Clarifies cyberbullying.
It adds that into it so that it's specifically discussed. So that there's nothing there's nothing
Yeah, I didn't have
super
anything.
different with this. The following on page 31, the administrative regulation that corresponds with this. Minor changes.
It's really new. We last updated this in March of last year, so it was very up to date at that time too.
Good.
So
Big chunk of
cyberbullying is on here, but it's stuff that we already have, so I wasn't too worried about this one. Are there questions on this one?
No.
Okay, so then if we move on to we go to 49. This is just the beefy one. This is the one that took up a ton of space.
The preschool.
So page 49 is the next policy we're looking at, which is preschool, early childhood education.
And that had something to add to the calendar.
I was talking about pre-K and TK commingling in one classroom. And then about volunteers needing the flu shot and TB. So I didn't know about the flu shot. That was,
Yeah, that's weird.
that's usually I mean, I know hospitals, they require their staff,
Yeah.
but I didn't know it was in there about influenza, which I was a little bit surprised.
I know doctors recommend if you deal with, I mean, when I was a teacher, they recommended that I get one. But
This
I don't
But
know.
we weren't required. to.
Right.
This is it shall or will? Let's see.
Let's see.
I think it'd be great if the hospital would come set up a day for teachers to get their shots.
So were there questions on this one?
Yeah, well, if,
Just the.
do we want to have the flu shot?
I'm looking for that.
Yeah, I'm looking too. I
Yeah,
remember
I wrote it
the
down.
TB, but I don't remember but I might have been going fast at that
Are you
point.
sure it's in this one? I don't think it's in this one.
There's lots about
Preschool, maybe it's
preschool.
the next one.
Maybe it's in the
The
AR.
only thing in this one really was the one paragraph that was recommended be revised to reflect programs offered by the district, and then a paragraph
might
about
be.
Williams' uniform complaint procedures. The rest of it was,
Oh, this is health and safety code. It's on page 57. Requires employees and volunteers at a daycare center be So is that considered a daycare center?
No.
So then,
Well, it says any person employed at a district preschool and any volunteer provides care and supervision. Unless exempt by
shall
law.
be immunized.
Shall is pretty
Yeah.
strong.
okay, so it
Documentation
says
of
the
require.
districts that have not adopted AR 5148 may revise the following paragraph, but we have adopted policy AR 5148, so that's not adopted.
Are you on page 57?
I am on page 57.
Mm-hmm.
So we have adopted it, therefore it doesn't give us the option to
Change it.
revise it, I think, because we've already adopted it elsewhere.
Okay.
So does that mean we can get in trouble if we're not?
Districts that have not adopted AR 5148, childcare and development, may revise the following paragraph accordingly and expand it to include the exemptions specified in health and safety code. So we have adopted 5148. May revise the following paragraph accordingly and expand it to include the exemptions. Okay, so we'll need to look at that paragraph a little bit more closely, because what concerns me about this one is exactly what you said, is that any person employed at a district preschool and any volunteer who provides care and supervision to children at a preschool, so it's not all of our volunteers and it's not all of our employees, it's only preschool employees. This says, unless exempted by law, they need to be immunized against influenza, so that means they get the flu shot, the pertussis, and measles.
Because this age group is especially at risk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
So let me make a note and let's talk to legal about that.
Mhm.
And what,
Find out what the exemptions are.
right,
Because I know she's requiring a lot more than some other areas.
Okay.
page
Good stuff.
57. Okay.
Do preschool teachers already show clearance of TB?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
every employee
Everybody,
does.
yeah.
And
You don't
volunteers.
have to get one of those.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Good thing you asked, huh?
Every 2 years.
That just means I have to go to Ukiah.
No, you can do it here.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
I had to go to Ukiah for the city, that's nice.
And then after you pass once, you just go in and sign a thing that you haven't been exposed. You don't have to get the test actually anymore.
Okay.
After you pass once.
So the next one we're looking at is on
Immersion programs.
page 65, but I was looking at the rest of this. There's one other thing on here, revised to reflect the district practice, but I think all that's good. I think I looked, yeah, okay. I think all that's good. So page 65.
There's one paragraph.
So the next couple of ones are specific to the changes in standards. So first we have world languages. They're not calling it foreign language anymore. World language is
Well, this is about immersion. I thought this one was
Immersion.
about immersion. Instead of dual, or I don't know, this stuff. Maybe that's the next one.
It's two-way language immersion program.
Districts
So
dual
it's trying to
language
be
immersion.
there was nothing too shocking in that. I mean, it's a new law, which is why we're seeing it as it is.
And
in the
this is
board
one of those
policy.
ones, again, that says is revised to reflect district practice. So as long as the ADCO is okay with it.
Okay. All of these need to be reviewed by ADCO because we have civics education next.
Mhm.
And it's a good reminder. There's things in here about
Constitution Day.
Right, voter registration.
Which I know that happens at the high school.
And there's a designated employee already that.
Josh Brown.
and
available.
controversial topics. You know, how we present those controversial topics. So much of this is stuff we already do in the civics board policy. The next one on page 72 is science instruction, and this is to reflect the change for the next generation science standards.
And there was an optional one in there, and I, for some reason, said no. And I think it's because it added something to somebody's
Yeah, it said report to board,
Yeah.
implementation and effectiveness of curriculum.
of each grade level.
And then the superintendent's supposed to implement safety measures.
Well, that happens, but.
Yeah.
Can we go back to, are we on,
So I was bringing up page 73.
can we go jump back to page 70 really quick? There's a part in green about voter outreach, and it says that county elections officials should be on campus in April and September.
During the
May
last 2 full
coordinate.
weeks in April and
Mhm.
September, in areas on each
And
high
shall
school
be
campus
allowed,
that are
yeah.
reasonably accessible to all students as designated by the principal or designee, the county elections official shall be allowed to register students and school
Okay.
personnel to vote. So they don't have to be there,
Mhm.
but if we want to have them, or if they
Or if they
contact
ask,
us,
yeah.
I'm saying, say that one more time, Scott?
If we wanted to invite them.
Yes.
We've actually had student groups the last couple of years actually do a mass registration in the library with kids, because they can register at 16 now. Well, they can't
Okay.
vote till they're 18,
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
So they get them pre-registered, so anybody
Mhm.
can come and do that.
Okay, sorry, now 73.
Great question, thank you.
I just, trying to respect the overload that the staff has. I just didn't necessarily think that we needed a specific science report to this extent when we're not doing the other, core,
Academics.
yeah. So I was
Reporting
saying
out-
no, yeah, I
reporting
was
out
saying
from
no
that.
on that extra, thing to the calendar.
And I'm trying to remember where, I think it's in the SARC where we talk about chemicals and safety and all that thing for the high school.
Well, this is actually about the new curriculum, this paragraph
Just
is.
reporting out on
Yeah.
your
Okay.
implementation. But maybe you have to do that the first time, part of the adoption?
I don't know, it was optional, so I was thinking I mean, I assume the science department's gonna
Is
wanna
that part of
come-
our 68% of our agenda?
See, that, to me, that's not student,
No?
I mean, cause you're not telling us how the students
Right,
are
that's
doing. This
true.
is just
That's
saying,
true. Just reporting out what
yeah,
you're-
what the
yeah.
curriculum is, I don't know.
Well,
That's my opinion.
before we adopt the curriculum, someone gives you a report on it. So we're looking at new science books for the middle school for next year. So that will go through the process. The teachers are in the process of looking at samples right now. Once they've chosen their favorite, they're gonna have a parent night, let
Mhm.
parents look at it as well. After the parent night, it'll be on display at the district office for 30 days. They come to you and say, this is what we thought. Then it's held for 30 days, and they'll come back to the following board meeting. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And then you'll either approve or not approve.
And is the high school,
You're talking about that paragraph at the bottom of 73, right? Where the
Mhm.
superintendent will regularly report blah, 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 and it's optional. optional,
Mhm.
and I mean, that's gonna be part of the dashboard.
Yeah.
So,
And Becky,
That's true.
Becky, can you ask that maybe the high school be involved with that?
The middle school.
I actually was at the site council meeting and that was brought up, which I probably should have, I should have brought my notes from site council and I suggested that. And
Because
so
I know we've
she'd
talked about that with
gotten-
other things, having the middle school be on the high school team and vice versa.
And she thought that, you know, if she could coordinate it, because I know they have their days when they meet up, that she'd keep that in mind, so that.
I just, the
It's just another set of eyes.
articulation would be wonderful.
Yes, it would.
Okay, so I just was saying no on that paragraph just to leave it off. I don't know if anybody else.
I agree.
Agreed.
Okay.
So 11, I didn't have any notes on it.
Is that the controversial
Yeah, I
issues?
think it was pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
Again, I think, yeah, all these
It was
things.
just, right.
I know Mary does all that stuff. and-
Talking about sharing viewpoints and if
Is
you
that which
only,
one? The
if they
health
view.
stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any notes on it.
Well, even in curriculum, it says if they're given a controversial issue, just one side, then they need to supplement the other view. And no one's penalized for sharing.
And you know, I wonder if, this is not really about politics, but if maybe that little side note might be, with today's political, okay.
Headlines
It's late,
and-
apparently I can't speak. With today's, more people just blurting out their opinions and not really, respecting
what
other,
they're
right,
saying,
respecting other people, if maybe we should, just add that to that whole list of things that you have to do at the beginning of the year with the staff, and just kind of remind them, you know.
Controversy, yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, this hits the high school more than anyone.
Right.
Mhm.
Because the students are at an age where the controversial issues are naturally there in your history class, in your world history class, in, you know, in your government and econ class. It really pipes up in social studies. And our high school English teachers also had a prompt this year for their benchmark about taking a knee. You know, what was the opinion of it? I will say that the staff does a very gracious job on facilitating and not inspiring, meaning they don't share their opinions. They allow the kids to come up with their own opinions. They want them to research. They want them to learn, discover, explore.
But right now, I think we're very lucky. I know
I would
even
agree
in
with
my
you.
tenure at Fort Bragg High School, that wasn't always the case.
So we
just a
can
nice
absolutely
little
add this
reminder.
in to the
Mhm. Now
beginning
that-
of the year.
Yeah, just because it's, I don't know, when it's brought through on policy, I just feel like it's a,
Yeah, just a
sometimes, I
reminder
mean,
to-
staff doesn't read this, however many binders it takes if you printed them out. I remember them being in the principal's office.
Oh.
The old days.
Those wonderful binders.
So the next policy is on page 80, extracurricular and co-curricular activities. There's some minor changes here.
I actually got a little flustered reading this thing about the home, because wasn't that the situation that Mark was telling us about that didn't get approved by the higher people, but yet here it is right here in Ed Code or board policy or whatever that,
Who are the higher people?
well, the
CIF.
CIF or whatever
don't
didn't
think that
approve
would've
that
been
waiver
different.
for a student moving, and, I mean, I don't know, I just feel like that just brought it back, that poor kid didn't get to,
They
play.
maybe need to articulate with this.
yeah. Yes.
Well, I think that the changes are in this board policy because of the new law.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
And it talks about a written emergency action plan and notifying a parent if an injury was an option.
Oh my gosh, I thought to myself,
Of course
when would
we
that
are.
not happen?
I know.
Right.
And then, and obviously we have, all of our sites have a defibrillator available.
we do.
And then we've also included the heat illness, so that we're pretty well covered on that.
I looked through it and looked like they were being.
Although I don't know about the emergency action plan.
So I have a note on that, to email Bruce
CIF.
and Mark about an emergency plan.
Because they said that you could get it from CIF on this policy.
And I think they have it. So I just need to email them and ask. because we have the defibrillators.
Yeah, this is kind of just putting into policy what CIF is already.
Which is great that we're kind of ahead of it.
Look at this, kids, we're on page 91.
So can I go, sorry, 85?
85?
What's the local CIF lead? Do we designate a representative from each school?
We do.
Okay, so I'll-
It's Mark Chimolino, and Bruce Triplett, I think, is actually on the board of managers now. And so they do a report in the fall every
Okay,
year.
great. Thank you for answering all my questions.
Page
Okay, and then
90.
the high school one, I think, just needs to go to the high school because
Mhm.
there's a thing in here about 3 years of English.
So okay, we're on page 90 though, right?
Mhm.
What I have for 90 is athletic competition.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were done with athletics. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
It's
straightforward.
pretty minor.
Yeah, I didn't write
There's,
The heat illness.
yeah, that's all in BP. They have to update the AR when that happens. The defibrillators are still in there. The optional section that we can send to parents and guardians of students participating in sports.
What's the difference between a board policy and an admin reg?
Board policy usually talks about, how do I put it? Yes. Board policy is the why, the administrative regulation is the how we're supposed to do it.
Mhm.
So the administrators pay attention to the AR. Now, we don't have this optional section on page 94 and 95. What I can do is I can ask that Mr. Triplett and Mr. Chimolino make sure this is included in the athletic handbook, and that would solve that. Oh. The defibrillators?
So who's trained to use the defibrillator at each site?
Who went through the training? I think the health aides did, but we'll have to check.
So,
I think that's-
like, if the health aid's gone, if they're out that day, there's not a second?
They're actually, the
Yeah.
defibrillators are set
And
up
the
so that
coaches
anybody
need to
can
be-
use
Mhm.
them. Come by, I'll show it to
Okay.
you. They're on a battery pack and.
Mhm. Little backpack kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
I've
And I
seen
think
it
all
up
the
on
coaches
wall at
are,
high school.
that's part of
And
their.
Don't they talk, don't they like tell you what to do? You know, you turn it on and it says da-da-da-da-da, and then you do that and it tells you what to do next, I'm pretty sure.
I haven't played with it.
Yeah,
But-
you don't have to know anymore which side of the heart and up and down and stuff it used to be, okay.
Yeah, no, I
Good.
think they're designed for anybody.
As I'm getting older, I get worried about that stuff.
Should get a pacemaker.
Mhm.
Okay, high school
so-
graduation?
Yes, so page 97. So I actually want to ask legal about this because it says to obtain a high school diploma, this says at least. And this concerns me because this changes it quite a bit from what we have right now. And my concern with this particular board policy is I know that we have a few new assembly bills. And the assembly bills are really about foster homeless students who move into your district so that they can graduate. So this policy is really about if a foster or homeless student comes into our district, they don't need 4 years, they need 3 years. But I don't want this policy to be confused with what we want our general ed kids who live here full-time to have. Does that make sense?
Yes. Is that with honorary diploma or something? Is that
No,
what
it's
they're talking
actual
about?
full-blown
Something-
diploma.
Okay.
It's a full-blown diploma.
Okay.
And if we have a student who's a foster youth or homeless youth who moves into our district at the last minute or during their senior year, I believe it's the end of their junior year, then we can make some substantial modifications in what the requirements are. My concern with how this is worded, if you look at it, just on how it's presented,
It's not very clear.
It doesn't delineate who. It says to obtain a high school diploma from Fort Bragg High School, Noyo High School, or Lighthouse Community Day School, students shall complete at least the following courses. So that's my concern with this wording. I want to kind of show it to Nancy Klein and make sure that we're not, because this really isn't for everybody. This is for our students who move in. And then on page 98, the optional paragraph, because we do require more than 2 courses in mathematics, which is, the reason I'm confused on this is because the top section says you only need 2 years of mathematics, right? At least. And then this here says if you need more. So I just don't like the way this is worded, and I need to figure it out, because what our board policy says right now is that if you are going to graduate from our schools, you will have 4 courses in English, 3 courses in 3 courses in math. Right?
And the history is a little debacle too.
It's a little wonky.
Yeah.
And I think the
it doesn't really
intent
go along
of this
with our
policy is to say if you are going to get a diploma from us, you have to at least do this, but it's all in relation to the Foster Homeless Youth Assembly Bill that came through. My concern is the way that it's printed right here. When I first read it, I said, no, wait a minute. If I'm a parent and I've been here my whole life in Fort Bragg, my kid's struggling, and you're telling me from this board policy I only need 3 years of English, why am I taking senior English? That's my concern on this particular policy.
Can we create a separate policy just for those other kids, so they're not confused?
Well, here's the difference. There's a part in here that specifically addresses foster homeless youth.
Yeah, that's why I didn't see it the way I thought. That first part
That's for the exemptions and waivers, right?
Yeah, I thought the first part was for all students.
That's how I read it, and I'm not willing to change this policy for all students.
No, that's why I was like, why is this?
That's why I thought, oh boy, yeah.
So I have that down in my notes. Let me talk to Nancy Klein about that. Board policy 6146.1, high school graduation requirements, page 97 of the board packet.
Okay, so that one's getting pulled. Okay.
I just don't feel comfortable even.
Then the good old high school exit exam.
We've dealt with all the high school exit exams.
Yeah.
We went back, looked at all the students who completed diploma requirements but did not pass the high school exit exam, and we've awarded them diplomas, so that's done.
That was a while ago.
Now we're on to the math one that Diana talked about earlier, page 104.
It's just out of order. 104, yeah.
So we've never had this policy, which is why it's a CSBA sample policy.
I saw that.
But it popped up as being updates, but we've not had this policy in our packet of policies. And it's here, it came up as an update for you to look at.
So I said, please advise.
And we had to change things in the math placement before I left because of whatever.
So there's
laws
an assembly bill that passed that said students could not receive credit for the same class if they've already received credit for that class. So let me give you a for instance. We have a kiddo who earns a D in Algebra 1 first semester and an F in Algebra 1 second semester. Well, what we do is we enroll that kiddo back in Algebra 1 again next year. But if they, according to the new assembly bill, they cannot get credit for Algebra 1 first semester because they've already received credit for Algebra 1 first semester. That student is not going to be successful in Algebra 1 second semester if we don't put the student in Algebra 1 first semester, right? So what we've done to bypass this, or I should say bypass, but what we've done to honor the student and to make sure that the student gets credit, we offer 2 different Algebra 1 classes. We offer an Algebra 1 class and an integrated Math 1 class. So that if a student doesn't pass Algebra 1, they can go into integrated Math 1 or vice versa. Because if a student's already failed one class and now we're putting them back in to not get credit in another class, it's like giving them another F of no credit. So we can't do that. So we do a lot of this already.
And we do have another policy that is actually called math instruction, which I think is where a lot of that information is housed.
And that's on page 107, 108, 108. The one that stood out for me was the optional paragraph on page 109. When a student, it's optional. When a student does not qualify to be enrolled in a particular mathematics course based on a consideration of the objective measures specified in the placement protocol, he or she may nevertheless be admitted to the course based on the recommendation of a teacher, counselor who has personal knowledge of the student's academic ability. I'm fine with the teacher recommendation. There's also a part in here about parents. So.
Where's the parent part?
I'm looking for it.
This is within 10 days of the initial placement? Is that what you're looking at on bottom of 109?
Oh, maybe that's
Yeah,
it,
they can appeal to the superintendent. And just to let the board know, if we have a student who comes in from another school district, or if we have a student who comes in from another school district, we usually take what their placement was from their previous district. Where it becomes tricky is when we have a homeschool student or a student, we've had a couple of issues with some Three Rivers kids who've come in and said, no, I'm in algebra. So we put them in geometry, and we've discovered that, just looking at their transcript, it may be not really algebra, maybe it was pre-algebra. So we've had to do a couple of things like that. We've had a couple of people who've come in and said, my student's ready for calculus. And so, and one time the student really was, another time not so much. So we look at the final exams from our previous courses, like our trigonometry final exam or our algebra 2 final exam, and then we have the student complete those, and then we take a look at it. So we have protocols and procedures in place, so I'm not too terribly worried about this. And then the evaluation of the instructional materials, starting on page 110. We do this. Any questions on that?
No.
Do we conduct one or more public hearings on the sufficiency of the district's textbooks?
We have not had public hearings on the sufficiency of public textbooks. What, I didn't see that. Where was that?
Page 111, kind of towards the bottom. Hearing shall be held on or before the end of the 8th week from the first day students in school.
Yes.
We do
Yeah, we do
actually
that.
do that.
We
Oh,
do.
actually, yeah, we do.
We do that.
It's an
Sorry.
annual regular
It's
thing.
part of our.
That's part of the Williams. Sorry.
Okay.
Anna circulates all, that's right, because everybody puts in what the books that we use, it comes to the board. It's interesting, when you read it in print and you can't associate what do we do with it.
What the layman's terms are.
Uh-huh. Okay, TK on page 116.
So was the optional piece about allowing them to join mid-year, is that what?
Well, this really is,
Commingling.
so let's say we have an August baby, okay? TK is for September 2 through December 2. Well, let's say we have an August baby, premature. The baby was due in September, the baby was due in October. It's an actual friend of mine, baby was due in October and came super early. And we get to starting kindergarten and mom and dad say, hey, you know what? We really want him or her in TK and want to wait a year. Then what this is saying is that we need to sign an agreement with that parent so that the parent understands that we are conceding and doing this with them.
I'm sorry.
You just need so in any case, that's what this talks about. And that's signing a kindergarten continuance form, verifying that agrees to have the child enroll in kindergarten the following year. So it's just something that we need to.
And just spend that year in TK and get ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then do we give kids who are born after December 5th an option, or is this December 2nd
No, we don't.
option?
So we changed our board policy that our TK happens between September 2 and December 2. And the reason for that is the first year that TK came out, we allowed the option that when after the December 2nd date, when a child turned 5, we allowed them to be in TK. It was incredibly difficult because all of a sudden we were hiring a teacher mid-year.
So then we don't want to include those two
Right, that's what I was
paragraphs
asking about.
at the top of page 117.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's gotta come out.
That optional paragraphs, I don't believe is an option for us. It caused way too much havoc. Did you get that? Thank you.
So are we on to career and technical ed?
I think so. I'm just revised.
So the only thing I had noted is that it says that the board is supposed to appoint the committee. Can we make it that the superintendent, the advisory committee? I didn't see why that
Well,
needs to
this-
come to
this-
us.
Well, that paragraph's not new, it's just moved.
What page
Okay.
are you on, Kath?
I didn't write the,
Oh, yeah, 122, the underneath that, right there.
The board shall appoint.
yeah,
In
I just,
blue.
it's really
Well,
not
that's
our,
right. No, because they already have one.
Right.
They do that.
But it's not appointed by the board.
No.
that's what
We-
I'm saying. Can we change
Yeah,
that
the
to?
following paragraph may be revised to reflect requirements and equitable programs offered by the district.
So
Gotcha.
what we should say is
The sites or the whoever?
the high school shall convene.
So the middle school CTE stuff doesn't have, they're not really involved in the.
They're
The-
invited as well.
They're invited, yeah.
Yeah, and they attend. I
The
believe, if they're
teachers are,
invited. Yeah.
right, the committee
Okay. So,
covers
but we don't
both.
have to say, just say site administration makes the committee versus the high school committee, is why I was asking that. If the middle school was involved.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, to say site reconvene.
Well, I
or
don't want, we
advisory.
don't want two CTE advisory committees. We don't want one for the middle school,
Well,
one
I
for
thought
the
it
high
would be
school.
together, they would be one.
So the district shall
Mm.
convene a CTE advisory committee to develop recommendations. Yeah, that'll do it.
Mhm.
Thank you, Anna.
And then what it consists of, we have to probably change that to maybe reconsider committee may consist of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice it did say may.
May consist of at
Mays
least.
are nice.
Yeah,
Shall or will or those.
that's my only note, or my last note.
That was it too for me.
Any other questions? Becky, anything else you found?
So I do have a question. So was this on CTE, is this new, or was in here already? That the board did this whole?
The whole board
this-
policy?
No, just
Oh.
this, the paragraph in blue.
If it's blue, it means that it was in the document but
Somewhere
removed. Red is obviously stricken
Right.
out, green is new.
Is new, okay.
Blue is a moved paragraph.
And a yellow highlight means, please look at this.
Yeah.
Usually it denotes the optional stuff.
Yeah, I figured that one, but I wasn't sure about the blue one. Yellow always stands out.
Yeah, we don't see blue very often, really. That's a good question.
So the next one. So the CTE stuff, it's pretty interesting. I think this is
Timely.
Perkins and CTE kind of coming together to get some things done, but it's just a mess. If you look at the red and the green and everything that got put out and put in.
Well, I figured this is all grant specific, so you guys would know what we have to do and what we don't have to do.
This right here is an
application
eye-opener.
process.
But it is also an
Of
optional
mishmash of
administrative regulation.
This whole thing is optional?
What page are you on?
Yeah, I would say if this whole AR is optional, that we table it until CTE kind of gets a better grasp on what they're doing. I would say that we take this optional AR and just not adopt it until CTE. I mean, it's kind of a mess right now.
Well, there's so many grants out there and funding things, and plus we have teacher issues and.
So, because we have the strong workforce, we have the CTIG, we have Perkins.
It's a new Perkins.
Yeah, so I would say we just table this one.
So we'll table it as is currently.
Do we even have this AR right now? We do have it.
Which is why I'm asking you
Well, can we just have the C-Tech people look at it?
I say we don't look at this for another year, to be quite honest with you, because there's gonna be a lot that changes this next year.
Well, then, should we wait on both of them? The board policy and the AR?
Well, the AR is optional. I don't think this next one is. Let me look.
The board policy is not optional, the AR is optional.
But we have one.
We have it already, so you
Right.
have an option of keeping it the way it is, changing it, or removing it.
But the board policy, we have one.
Yeah.
But if you think it's all, I mean,
The board policy, I think you need to adopt next time. The
Okay.
AR, I think we don't. We just leave it the way it is right now.
but it probably won't make any sense.
Oh,
With this new board,
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
So if we tabled both of them,
Can't table the board policy, because that's a new law. The AR,
well,
we
in
can.
theory, we can, because, I mean, I know it's not necessarily the
Oh, I
best
see what
way,
you're
because
saying. I see what
we
you're
have a
saying.
policy in place. It may not be current, but if you're thinking that we're not gonna implement it this way, shouldn't we wait and,
Yeah, can we just keep what we have? for-
right, until everything gets ironed?
Until we at least get through this application process and find out what we're really doing.
I don't
So-
know, as long as you don't, I mean,
Well, there's nothing much that's new written into it that would stop you from doing it.
Right, the board policy.
Yeah, the board policy.
Right, seems.
okay.
My only concern on this is that top paragraph, the new federal law,
On the AR or the VP?
BP.
That's page 122?
121.
Oh, yeah, it's 121 on the paper, 122 in the document, okay. Well, it says desires, so it doesn't mean, doesn't mean
It
it's
all-
necessarily,
it does,
it's
yeah.
like a may.
It's like a may, exactly.
Well, then let's table both.
Well, it's weird that
No,
it's
I'm
in
saying
here
that
then,
lets you, gives you wiggle room.
because even though they reauthorized, they haven't sent anything out yet. They have nothing.
It's the
Yeah, so
cart
all
before the
places
horse
where it
kind of a
says
thing.
may be
Yeah.
revised to reflect district, we have no idea what.
We don't even know
Yeah,
what
so let's
they're
wait, yeah.
requiring.
Yeah.
Good call.
I try.
And that's the last one, isn't it?
Yes.
That is
Oh,
not bad. An hour. About an hour.
December came out just as a
Oh. Okay, any other questions? Now, again, we do get to review them again next month. So if you weren't comfortable with anything, or yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, any suggested future meeting dates or topics at this time?
So at the January 24th special board meeting, we're going to have all the principals give their mid-year site plan reports. Okay, so we're going to keep those to a minimum. That's also our budget meeting, but it's the time that we do this is the site plan and this is where they're at. So I'm going to be really clear that the focus of that meeting is to look at budget and to keep all of their reports simple.
So I don't mean to be, but that means we have
The benchmark.
3 SARCs, benchmark data from Dana Gray, the mid-year, and the budget?
They're each going to be under 10 minutes each. So that would be for I'll keep it short. Yes.
But meaningful. We want it also to
Short
be
but
meaningful.
And we will make sure that material slides have plenty of time so we can review thoroughly and ask questions.
I just want to, because the point of, as we know, the point of the specials were to let people come to things they were really interested in. Well, the budget's really interesting to some people, and if we don't start that till 8 o'clock.
Do you want to do it after the budget?
That's an option.
Oh, that's a good idea.
With the exception of letting Mr. Kale go first?
That's the only problem, all these people have to sit through the budget for 2 hours.
Well, or we could,
Right.
well,
We could
the
have it.
principals might want
And I have to tell you, I've asked the principals to sit through the budget.
Yeah.
My only
You'd like
concern is if the
them.
weather is bad, I would like to give Mr. Kale
Yeah.
a head start home, that's all.
Nice.
Perfect. Forecast is sunny.
Well, then let's do the reports. Maybe that'll make them even
Starting
more
Monday, and the week after. Yeah.
I
concise.
would think they'd be interested in being here for the budget
We need a
anyway.
break.
We can
Yeah,
do the
I
bud-
do too.
I mean, what
They
we've done
would.
is I've already asked the principals to be here for the budget, so they're all gonna be
Okay.
here anyway, which is why we're going to do the mid-report, but we can do it after the budget talk, definitely. And we can just make Mr. Kale go first if the weather is questionable.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good, because that
Mhm.
seems that people really want to, if they,
Yeah.
If
Like
they
the
can come,
biggest
at least come for an hour.
No closed session, so we start at 6.
Start at 6.
perfect.
And just so you know, there is a question about a significant line item.
Well, I'm sorry, Wendy?
There's a question I have about a fairly significant line item that I'm waiting to get some guidance from CDE on. So I may not have anything for you until Monday to start looking at. I want to know what it's going to look like.
So we could have a free weekend.
So,
And you're gonna hear that a lot, because Wendy's always waiting for information to finish her stuff.
well, this is a big
It's a big,
thing, difference maker, so I want to find out for sure before I send anything out.
Okay, and then I did see today on the Google that you've already started the document with the meetings and things on it, so thank you for jumping on that. So,
We took it to ADCO and the site admins have seen it and know about it, so now we'll start plugging in.
oh, awesome, they'll be able to
yeah,
populate.
there's already some
Okay.
things on there
Where did you see that?
in the drive, Google Drive.
I was gonna share a link with you all once
Great.
everybody in the admin.
We should have something to
group
share.
was settled with it.
I just happened to be in there today trying to read all these board
Yeah.
policies.
I-
So then I won't worry about trying to divvy these
Up here, we'll
up
do it.
here because
Yeah.
we can do it
Do it
on
online.
the,
What's a DLAC mean?
it's the second.
District English Learner
Advisory
Committee, yeah,
Where is that?
See, they don't know it right away either.
Where do they meet for that?
Joanne's office.
Joanne's. okay.
That's for the
I'm
whole
gonna go to
district,
that.
not just the site.
ELAC.
So there's ELAC and DLAC. DLAC is the district, ELAC is the site.
Okay, so,
And, oh, could I say one, the Redwood ELAC wasn't on here, I didn't see.
If it's not on the district calendar, it doesn't get put onto this list.
Oh, she didn't get on, okay.
but actually, I think, Mary, it is on there, and I think your box is checked. Or was that for
I put
something
it-
else?
Oh, that might have been the very first meeting, she was just showing how it worked,
Oh.
maybe?
Maybe.
You
Oh, I
you
don't know.
put in everyone's checkbox, we all got a checkbox. I think so.
Well, yeah, there's a meeting, the regular board meeting has us all on
Right,
there,
we
too.
all
And
checked
as
in.
does graduation.
Go to shared with me.
Okay, So
Yeah,
I
look
just,
it up.
it's really important
There
to
it is
me
right there.
that we have somebody
That's it.
at all possible, at least one at every event. And I know we don't find out
Start
things
it.
till the last minute, but I think it's important for the board to be,
Present.
even at things we think might not be very important. It's on the calendar. Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn at 9:40.
Second. Meeting adjourned.